This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Good evening, everybody. That one says 6:15. That one says 6:14. Thank you, really. All right, we'll now open the meeting of January 16th, 2025 with a roll call of the council. Ms. Sully? Here. Mr. Wade?
Here.
Mr. Nehan?
Here.
Mrs. Abernathy? Here. And Mr. Hardy?
Here.
And the full gust of Ennis, Montana is here. If we could all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the approval of the December 12th meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. I'll second it.
Discussion? Corrections? Call the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, on to the December 19th meeting minutes.
I move to approve the December 19th minutes as written. Second.
Any additions, corrections, discussion? All right, Mr. Wade?
Aye. Aye.
There was actually a correction that I had there.
What's your correction?
Said second office position, but I think it meant to say officer position. It was on line number 12. I have to look. It might be correct. Yeah. That might have been on the other minute. It's the previous minutes. So I'll go ahead and aye on this one.
Commissioner Selly?
Aye.
So would you like to?
Let me look.
I'm looking.
Well,
Would you say 12?
yeah, line number 12.
Yeah.
Be conducted for the second office position.
Is that? Oh, it's in the mayor's report, not line 12. Item 12. Just gonna print it, highlight it, and then we'll correct it. Letter. Okay, would you like to propose an amendment to those?
I propose to amend the December 12th minutes, line number 12, to read officer instead of office.
I'll second that.
Any other additions or corrections? All right, I guess then we go back to Nihon.
I
All right. Karen. Library report.
Good evening, everyone. Karen Ketchu, Library Director. Just a couple of things in addition to my report. Our facilities, when we got automatic doors, the switches have never quite worked, so hopefully we'll have that worked out tomorrow. Butte Glass will be on hand to replace them all. So December was a busy month, but I'm actually glad to see it go. We get a little bit of quiet time in January, and I'm glad for it. We get to catch up a little bit, work on our backlog of projects, do some housekeeping, and then probably another week or so, early February, it'll pick up again. And I'm looking forward to pending your approval of appointments tonight, working with our new library board. It'll add a whole new chapter to the library, a new team, and I'll look forward to working with them, as well as hopefully a new part-time employee. The ad went out today, and it'll be open for 2 weeks. And yeah, it's exciting. Should be good things coming from the library. 2 invites for you all. We have 2 community connection events this month, January 25th at 10:30. We have a seed swap. If any of you are gardeners from across the Madison and Ruby Valleys come over, and we have a couple of master gardeners on hand, and everybody swap seeds and gardening stories, and everybody comes away with a whole new set of skills for the day. It's really fun. And January 31st, we have a potluck at 5 o'clock, followed by Humanities Montana presentation of Bigfoot in the Big Sky. You can deny it all you want, but I know you're curious. It should be really fun. Just a fun community presentation. Yeah, Bridger Lutz is a really entertaining presenter. So come if you can. It'll be good. Any questions for me?
You don't have use or visitors on here?
No, our boxes went out, and I'm in the process of getting some cable pulled for our new sensors. Yep.
Will you forward me the closed file from Department of Labor?
I think I did, but I will
Okay.
do. I will. Yep.
Or I'll double check.
That's okay. I'll just write that down. Yeah, short report this month. It was Mitch's first Friday board meeting, and oh, that's right. You attended 2 so far. Yep. Any other questions?
When's the seed swap? What time?
The 25th at 10:30 a.m. All right. Thanks, everybody.
You have John's written report. Any questions there? All right, Public Works. Eric, is that you online?
That's me.
All right, you're up for Public Works.
Okay, I don't have much more to add than we have been spending a lot of time wrapping littler projects up for this winter. Started a couple more. And just keeping ourselves busy. I would like to say on top of my report, if you can get this out to as many people as you can, this is the weekend historically when the water meter backs start breaking because of freezing. So to get your heat tape or whatever you need on your pipes this winter, this is the time. It is going to be really super cold this weekend. I don't.
I think I talked to Lucas, but on the diamond mapping, right at the end of the year, you guys were close to finishing up the sewers.
The
Is
sewer
that all?
is the sewer's done, and we're going to start when the roads clear up. When we have time, we got kind of a few projects going on right now, but we're going to get right back on that. I'm actually really eager to get that map done and finished. We're just actually got a lot going on.
Any questions for Eric? All right, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Susie had to be out for an appointment. Thought she had the end of the year court in here, but maybe. I saw it, I didn't put it in here. All right, I'll get the end of the year court because she closed that out. That was kind of her primary for the last part of this month. I can get that included in next month's for sure. Clerks report. Anything there? Okay. All right. The appointments to the library board. Rachel Scott and Carter Beck. I'd like to appoint them to the library board. This would be a 5-year appointment. Did they submit letters of interest or you just knew them through the library?
They did submit letters of interest, and I should have passed that along to you. My fault. Carter Beck is a Ennis resident. He's also involved with the Friends of the Library and has some board experience with the county library. He's he's very interested in the position and helping out. And Rachel Scott has been in the area. Actually, I'm not sure how many years. Her family has used the library for quite a few years now and has also volunteered for the library. And I believe they both will be tremendous help and wonderful additions to our board.
Have a motion.
I move to approve the appointment of Rachel Scott and who else?
Carter Beck.
Carter Beck to the library board.
Second.
Any other questions for Karen? Public comment? Shaking a little. Second call for public comment on library board appointments. Last call for public comment. All right, commissioners.
Aye.
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 Perfect.
All right. Thank you all.
So you have a full board now.
Yes.
When is the next library board meeting?
It will be February 7th, first Friday in, real quick, first Friday in February,
10 a.m., correct?
10 a.m., 9 a.m. 9 a.m. February 7th.
All right, claims.
I move to approve claims.
My second.
Discussion?
Two-way radios, is that for the police department?
Correct.
I just had a question about one of the Hankins, sorry, part of the claims. There was meal / transport to Bozeman, 1125. Is that for like the officer or for the person that was being transported? Just for,
11:25.
just wondering.
It was to transfer prisoners now over to the valley.
That's
Whose meal was it then?
Drivers, not the dogs, the drivers.
He was on shift though, right? Is that normal?
If he's driving for work, he gets mileage and any other required.
Your cop gets mileage for doing his job?
If he drives his personal vehicle, yes.
He shouldn't have been driving. his
I didn't
personal
say he
wasn't.
was, but he was working. Yeah.
So can you answer that?
so yes, if he is out of his regular duty area and cannot take his 1 hour lunch, he's allowed a meal. I think there's a per diem though set up in the policy. I have to double check.
And it's considered travel per diem.
Like,
It's considered travel.
I have to double check and see if the state rates have changed because it's,
The Fed rates did. If they follow the Fed rates did change. January 1.
And this was for a dog?
Um,
He's not in his personal vehicle, he's in a town vehicle, so he doesn't get mileage.
No.
I'm sorry, I confused you. I was stating a typical travel policy,
Right.
which is an employee who has to use their own vehicle,
Yeah.
gets mileage. If they're working, they get meals if they're traveling.
Right, but what does the handbook say? The employee town handbook.
The handbook has nothing to do with it. That's employee procedure. That's employee policy, not reimbursement policy. Typically, it's a state statute.
I will check into the employee meal policy. And it's just going off of memory from my ambulance because we had I think it was 10 for breakfast, 12 for lunch, and 15 or 19 for dinner.
State's 18 for dinner.
It was something like that. Because you never knew how your shift was going to go.
But this was for a dog?
The owner
We
was,
had to haul a dog?
yes. So
That's what your dog license is paid for.
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me explain.
Yeah.
Before, we had a contract with White and White
Mhm.
to take any dogs in which we could not find the owners.
Yeah.
In this case, we knew that the owner would not be available for their animal as another officer was dealing with them. So that dog we knew would not have a owner for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
So we have, and Heart of the Valley is going to put up a contract for us because it went to Heart of the Valley to shelter or quarantine anything that we have for rabies. So we're working on an agreement with them too. But I think it was 1,000. I want to say it was 1,000 a year for White and White, but I'll have to double check. So somewhere right around there.
So White and White was contracted to transport any abandoned.
Yeah, they boarded and
Animals.
housed and
Okay.
anything we had.
Okay.
But we
Totally
don't have that
understand.
option right now, so they go to the Heart of the Valley. We've taken, it's been about one a year. It was one last year and then one this year. So.
Okay.
Usually Facebook finds the owner faster than anybody else. But I will check on the meal policy, but I knew we had one. We followed the town's guidelines. Sometimes when we were the ambulance, sometimes we did an 18-hour transport and stopped at the really fancy place in Big Timber.
Just a quick question. Does the county have anything to do with the dogs? Because I think county was on that call as well. So did they have a facility that the dog could have went to?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Anything else on claims? All right, then we're at you.
Aye.
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 Okay, claims are approved. Public comment on non-agenda items.
Myron Womo, fixed income tax paying resident of Ennis, Montana. I'd like to enlighten you with a couple of numbers. My household income will increase this year by 5%. My 80% healthcare premium will increase 15.2%. You see what's wrong with that picture? That's why I believe everyone should pay their fair share. That being said, I have a question for Commissioner Hardy for clarification regarding the resort tax. You want me to wait until resort tax agenda item comes up or present it now?
I can't answer
sorry.
it now.
Myron, during public comment on non-agenda, the council, since it's not publicly noticed, isn't allowed to respond.
So I'll present it later.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Second call for public comment on non-agenda items. Last call for public comment on non-agenda items. Anything from online? All right, closing public comment on non-agenda items. On to unfinished business. Madison County Sheriff's Office agreement. Committee update. So, Corey,
Yes.
do you want to give the rundown of?
I guess ultimately we have a conversation going on between both of our attorney and the county
Mhm.
attorney right now. So I guess as far as yeah, just answering 4 questions in particular. I don't actually have those right now. Can you assist me with that maybe?
Okay, I guess the other part is the sheriff's office has sent a new agreement for dispatch services, in which they've asked for 140,
47?
yeah, $147,000 for dispatch, and allowed by Montana code in reasonable amount. We are asking for verification to the calls because they are still under the impression that 13% of the call volume through dispatch is NSPD. At that point, our calls were at right around 200. I'd just out of curiosity asked Madison Valley Medical ambulance service what their call volume was. And at that point, it was around 480 calls. And so
roughly double what?
correct.
PD. Yeah.
So at that point, we had a sit-down meeting. Ed was on his way to Virginia City. So we sat down and went through all of the numbers. He's contacting through the county attorney, the sheriff's office to verify the numbers and the call dates so that we know that they're ours and where those numbers come from, and his budget numbers, including his revenues, which is because we're also pointing out that like all of us already pay 911 on our property taxes. So is that part of that expenditure? And it needs to be calculated in. And then in the meantime, coming up with plan B if $142,000 for dispatch is not doable. Which I'm happy to say, I think we're almost there. It will come out to approximately $600 a month for dispatch services.
And I did contact the chief of police in Cut Bank and discuss their agreement that they have with the county, and it's roughly half what Madison County is currently asking for dispatch services. So.
But they paid a lot more for fingerprinting, which was interesting.
Can you yeah, Cut Bank, how large are they?
Cut Bank is a third class city, so they have to be right around 3,000,
Yes, 3,000.
I think is what. Yeah. And Bridger pays, oh, sorry. If you can ask questions to the mic, please. Sorry, I should.
How many
What
officers
about the
does
mic?
Cut Bank have?
Can you repeat what you said was $600?
We may be able to secure dispatch for approximately $600 a month
Through a different,
through a private company. Still trying to work out logistics. Bridger pays $20,000 for their 4 officers for additional dispatch services. It's all over the board is what we've noticed. I don't think there's any consistency to it from county to county.
And Cut Bank is 3,400 people roughly.
I know, so you said they were paying what, 20 grand a year?
It's half of so the county just asked us for 142,000. It's, I think we're at 75.
So they're about half of what?
And Cut Bank, if I remember, has 6 officers.
That I did not get. So.
I'll have to I can double check, but.
sorry, just to clarify, that's for all calls for just town limits, right?
That's
Whether
what, that
it's-
was one of the questions that we're getting clarification on.
Okay. And whether it's EPD or Sheriff's Department that
Yes.
responds.
And that's 24/7, right?
The
Dispatchers.
the new dispatchers you're looking at.
Yeah, I actually don't.
365, right?
For cut banks?
No, for the private company you're
Yes.
talking to.
At the 600.
Mhm.
So with the private company, how would that work with county responding?
It's well, if we're being charged to dispatch EPD, that's,
But we'd still have to pay county for when county is going to respond, correct?
that would be a separate agreement. This is the dispatch agreement that they're wanting to discuss.
Right. But if the call comes in and it goes to county, then you're still going to have to pay county even if you have private, correct?
County's already included in your taxes, I believe.
I'm talking
Not
about
for
the 147. Yeah. Not,
But initiating other calls, it's not. Only the 911 is
Right.
fine. And how much, what was grant revenue? So again, pulling budget numbers, call volumes, verifying.
So how does it work? Does the county basically charge each town for calls during the year?
Well, we're the only town with our own police department.
So if we don't have a police department, we wouldn't be
The
charged?
county is the police. The sheriff's the police everywhere else. It's with our own police department, it's an
So this is
added-
another cost of having a police department.
Mhm.
Is that included in their budget?
The calculated 1.5 mils is in the budget because that was the previous agreement.
What's that in dollar amounts? Remind me, please. Like 15,000 or?
I thought it was
Roughly, I mean,
17,000, but I'm doing that, but
so they want 130,000 more than what was budgeted for?
yeah.
Yeah. That's why the legal team's involved.
Oh, that deficit will be over.
Yeah, I mean, they're charging us because we're the only one with their own police force. So, it's added cost on an amenity.
Is this a third party that's you're outsourced that we can get bids from and check?
That's what she said,
what
the-
she's doing?
The
Yeah.
600 is for.
600.
Well, I knew that was one, but I didn't know if there was more businesses than just, because I did understand that was a different, quote coming in from somebody. But who you've spoke to over in Cut Bank is what you said. Okay, so they're using someone that's basically half the cost, but we've got to see if it's apples to apples or.
They're
oranges to
using the county.
oranges and-
They're
Their
using
county.
their
Okay.
county.
So
At
they-
half the cost.
Yeah,
And we're still reaching.
It was a mil this year.
Right.
yes.
To the point that even if we have private, that any calls that come in and they have to go through the county, we're going to be charged for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I've run dispatch centers all over the country, so I understand this pretty well. I started a dispatch for a fire department and a police department. So. As a town manager.
Okay. So there's no way to bypass that and have them go directly to the city, in the city limits and then you've got to, I guess you'd have to have a whole other person to do that, and you'd have to change laws and do whatever that would.
It's not any different if it goes into the dispatch for the state police. The state police still have to push it down to the local county.
Mhm.
The local county has to push it down to the local PD or the local ambulance service or fire department. It basically has to roll down until it reaches the authority that's going to handle it.
Okay.
So that's the update there. Guza is been working on that. IT. I'll give you You're up on this one.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We had a meeting earlier this month. Mayor Haas, Commissioner Hardy, myself, and a private contractor. And basically what we did was we reviewed the entire technology package for everything that's used, that's technology related in the town, whether it be two-way radios or whether it be cell phones, whether it be the office computers. We basically did a breakdown of the entire technology package that the town has. And ideally what we did was we put everything into categories, who they service, who's responsible for them. And what we're going to do is have a meeting this coming Monday on the 20th with technology officer, who is Chief Moore, and again, with the same team. And we're going to discuss what we can do to make sure that we have full redundancy throughout the community, and make sure that we're controlling the cost, and that the costs are, that there's no duplication of cost, but at the same time that we have redundancy and that we have the security that we need throughout the entire town network. So we'll be working on that on Monday, and I'll report back at the next meeting the outcome of that. And at that point, maybe we will have an opportunity to be able to share with the rest of the commission the entire breakdown of the technology solutions that exist within the community.
Yeah, and I guess if I could add to that, I think it's good that we're kind of assessing each one of our different departments with the town and their needs, and to kind of create ultimately the ability for people to potentially leave for vacation and whatever else. I mentioned to Eric at Public Works that this is we need to review every department within the town and just kind of try and figure out there is always a better way to do things. I'm currently going through training a new office staff for my business, and the other individual who was previously doing it is, just had to leave. And I'm kind of, that's what I've been doing every single day for quite a while. And it's if we can come up with a plan to steer clear of, if, God forbid somebody, just leaves or whatever else, it happens. So I guess just a second person that may be in the know on stuff. So
I think the other important thing to mention is that it creates our eligibility for certain grants that exist out there. And just to add, I do this all over the country. I review technology plans. It's something that really advancing and bringing us really into the here and now, meaning that we're using cloud technology, that we're using PTT solutions, that we're using technology that basically is cheaper, and that you can cluster a lot of it together. You can bundle it and reduce the cost, and to be able to have something that's far safer, far more efficient. But to Corey's point, the other part to it is that there is no one person that has the keys to the kingdom, and that there is the ability to be able to make sure that people can go off and enjoy themselves if in fact they're in charge of technology. So.
Good.
All right, is town hall going to be open on Monday because of the holiday?
No.
But you will be meeting?
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, on to scheduled matters. First item of business is Ennis Enterprise Sphinx Mountain Saddle submitted a conditional use permit, went through public hearing at the Tuesday planning board meeting. They have their recommendations for the town. Forrest, do you want to give our overview staff report for us? How's Helena?
It is busy. The rumors are true. So we are going gangbusters up here. But yes, happy to jump into this staff report for the Canis Enterprises. Can you all hear me okay? I should stop there. Terrific. Thank you. Yeah, I'll get into the staff report for the Canis Enterprises Sphinx Mountain Saddlery Conditional Use Permit and Site Plan. I won't read this verbatim since I assume you all have seen the staff report. I'll just hit on the highlights. This is a conditional use permit and site plan application for the Canis Enterprises Sphinx Mountain Saddlery. It would allow residential use as part of a partial tear down and remodeling project at 111 East Main Street in Ennis. The property is within the incorporated city limits of the town of Ennis, and it is in the CCR Core Commercial Residential Zone, which is located within the Traditional Neighborhood Overlay District, or TND. As you mentioned, the planning board did hold a public hearing and considered the application. We went through the criteria for consideration as far as design quality, the allowed uses within this zoning classification, density parking. The planning board did add a condition regarding parking, which I will touch on. And discussed signs, construction requirements. Also went through the requirements for the conditional use permit and the intent for the building. As I mentioned, it would be a partial tear down with a remodel to allow for a more of an open concept retail area that would be more accessible, as well as a residential unit on the second floor. The planning board did recommend approval subject to conditions. I will go through those in detail. Condition number 1 is the application is considered binding and the project shall be in compliance with the representations provided therein, except as modified by these conditions or by agreement with the town. Condition number 2 is necessary approvals from the town public works department shall be obtained. Condition number 3, the developer shall enter into a T&D agreement acceptable to the town. The agreement shall include references to all the conditions required by the town. There was a draft T&D agreement submitted with the application as well, so they just have to make sure that that's in final acceptable format for the town. Condition number 4 is no less than 4 off-street parking spaces shall be maintained. Condition number 5 was added by the planning board, which would require 2 of those parking spaces be reserved for residential parking from 8 p.m. through 8 a.m. The parking spaces are in the back of the building, so they'd make sure some are open for residential parking. Condition number 6 is all ordinances of the town of Ennis shall be adhered to at all times. And condition number 7, all requirements of the Ennis Town Code, including zoning requirements, shall be adhered to at all times. Number 8 was also added by the planning board for clarification that all applicable building and safety codes shall be adhered to. So those were the conditions recommended by the planning board, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions or provide more information. Thank you.
Just maybe a point of thank you to the applicant and to the applicant's contractor. They were very conscious and very thoughtful in their presentation and some of the recommendations that were made by the planning board. So I want to thank them very much for their interest in making sure that the project would be a good one for the town of Ennis. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions for Forrest?
Is a timeline on this project?
I don't know if that's a Forrest question.
Yeah, I'd probably refer that to the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Luke Slabaugh, and I'm the contractor for Gretchen. And the project that we have here, as far as a timeline, she has a business, and of course, her busy months are in the summer. So we're going to try to do it this winter if possible. Now, that is all depending on the weather. Ideally, if everything goes through, we're hoping sometime in February. But pouring concrete and digging and all that, we're going to have some at least reasonably warm temperatures. So I guess weather permitting, yeah, hopefully February sometime for starting the project. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the room?
I'm going to make a motion to approve with the conditions as they were read, and with obviously the signing by the mayor with the property owner.
I'll second the motion.
Commission discussion?
I guess just one thing popped out to me in particular. I guess just suggested they're adding a residential unit will add to the housing inventory in Ennis. It's one of the biggest things, and that's we're coming up on our what the heck growth policy. Thank you. Coming up on doing our growth policy, and I think our application for it was based off of. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was based off of getting fund. Well, it was what did the grant was? Help me out here.
House Bill 819 was legislative funds in hopes of identifying affordable housing.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I'm just affordable housing in itself has its own definition of which is unique to every different town. But her adding a residential unit here, whether it's utilized as a VRBO or for employee housing, is kind of where I'm going with this. Virginia City just put in a cap at 10% of the homes can be VRBO, and that's the new cap. So, and the short-term rental doesn't really do a whole lot for businesses or for long-term renters or for people who are going to be a member of the community. But I'm not saying that's what it is your property and you get to do whatever you will with it. But I'm just, it just kind of popped out to me that it could just be a VRBO and be used as an income property.
Yeah. So the discussion came up, and the hopes of the property owner and the business owner is to be able to use this for employee housing, and to try to attract employee to actually have some place to live in town, so that they can actually work for her. And I think the challenges of actually having someplace affordable for someone to live in town and actually be able to work for her is the challenge that she's having. And by adding the housing to that second floor really helps her have less of a hurdle to actually be able to address that. So there was quite a bit of discussion, and the applicant shared that information with us. And if anything really happened in the future that it couldn't be used for employee housing, the conversation led that it could be used for storage and other things. And there wasn't much discussion about it being transient type of housing.
Sure. I'm more so just bringing it up because we're going to be discussing the growth policy. And like the mayor said, that's where we got the funding for it, was a grant based on coming up with affordable housing. So
Is the
that's
planning board identifying a need for a policy for all these business and residential use buildings on Main Street
Yes, so
to
I
be
didn't-
strictly for employee or owner housing?
I did not want to have that mixed in with this conversation. I think because they're two separate topics.
Yes.
But I think that we can discuss that at the end because I had already planned on talking about our need to basically visit the
Restrict,
code.
yeah.
Well, we need to visit the code. The code is very weak and in some cases it has some safety concerns for the town. So we do need to have that conversation. But for this application and for this and what we could actually vote on and what we could basically take into consideration, none of that is a factor. So we had to vote on the merit of the project itself. But very good point.
Mm-hmm. Any other discussion?
No.
All right, I think we're back to.
Yeah. Yes, for me.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your meeting.
So I'll get with you and sign a T&D agreement. I saw your draft. I think that we have to amend with the conditions, the new conditions, and then it's ready to go. Agreed. That's all the excitement. All right. Growth Policy Selection Committee for the engineering company.
Thank you. First of all, William Neal Witt couldn't be here this evening, and he asked me to basically read this into the record. I also want to take the time to thank Lyndon Seed, who is the chair of the planning board. I'd like to thank Dave Berriman, who is a member of the planning board, and Commissioner Hardy, who actually was a part of the process, and myself. The selection committee published requests for letters of interest in the Madisonian, Bozeman Chronicle, and Helena newspaper. As well, we conducted research on firms who work on growth policies for other Montana communities that look good. Based on that process, 4 firms were identified: Interstate Engineering, WWC Engineering, Great West Engineering, and Highlight Engineers. RFP letters were sent out to those firms on October 23rd, 2024, with a deadline for the firms to submit their proposals by November 13th, 2024. Of the 4 firms, only Great West and Highlight chose to submit proposals by the deadline. Upon contacting the other 2 firms, they said they had questions and concerns that needed to be addressed before they would submit their proposals. Since they did not make a concerted professional effort to get their questions and concerns addressed in the time available, the committee chose not to give them extra time to submit proposals and proceeded to review the proposals from Great West and Highlight. Based on the committee's review of those proposals, they decided to invite both firms for follow-up interviews in order to further evaluate. I'm just adding this in. Each one of those interviews took 2 hours. We did them on 2 separate evenings. The committee interviewed Great West, on December 16th, 2024, and interviewed Highlight on December 17th, 2024. Following the interview on December 17th, the committee met to discuss the qualifications and merits of both Great West and Highlight and scored their proposals and interview on their interview performances. Upon conclusion of that effort, a vote was held, and the committee selected Great West Engineering as the firm to recommend to the Town Commission to handle the update to the Town of Ennis growth policy. To further substantiate that choice, 3 references provided by Great West were contacted: the City of White Sulphur Springs, Montana, the City of Roundup, Montana, and Mayor County, Montana. All 3 had very positive things to say about the work Great West had done for them, which included work on growth policy documents. Once the positive references were received, the Growth Policy Selection Committee looked to present their recommendation of Great West to the Town Commission at this meeting. Submitted by William Neal. I can tell you that from the 2 interviews that we had, it really was, I think it came down to the ability as to who would actually have the ability to have support staff and backup to be able to complete the project and to be able to complete it within the budget that we had. Those were the 2 things that became challenges. I can tell you that one contractor, one of the engineering firms, they did have someone that would be basically managing the project, but they would be managing it remotely. And we found that to be a challenge. And we thought that that's really what made Great West stand out. And obviously their reputation as well.
I guess to add to that, the other firm was incredibly small. It was based out of Bozeman, and that was attractive to me because I think I'm the only person sitting here right now that was here when we did the master plan write up, the whole process, and I felt there were too many individuals involved with the process, and I like the idea of a smaller group of people. So yeah, if I had anything to add, I mean, Great West is going to be our recommendation, but I think just really being involved as far as all of us here at these tables or even community members, definitely being on whatever type of committees that they have and trying to make this a successful endeavor. So I think just involvement is all I'm asking for from the community. So.
And I think the other really important thing to state is that we had the survey boxes out and we received over 200 responses to the surveys with people's interest as to what they would like to see greater attention paid to in the growth policy. So I think that the community involvement began at the very beginning, which is really helpful and good, and that it will continue. And we made sure that whoever would be managing the project, that community involvement would be paramount to making sure that it was a good and fair process for the community. So we're recommending Great West.
All right. I'll open it to public comment.
Is this been budgeted for? Weren't you relying on the grant to pay for the growth policy?
Correct. We've received the funds we have to go through the process. So the next part of this, as soon as we have the contract, I get it back to Department of Commerce. We've been filling out their timelines for everything. And then you do a reimbursement at a certain section, a timeline in that grant process.
Okay.
So yes, this is all within our confirmed. We did get this grant. We have the contract. We signed that, approved that contract last month. No, it was November. It was November that we approved that Department of Commerce contract for this process.
Okay, and then we'll cover it in full. There's no line item for the growth policy in the budget. Is that right?
In the planning, it's listed under that grant. It's listed in the grant in the planning board.
So there's no line item on the budget for growth policy.
It's going to be under other purchase services or professional services.
Okay. Thank you.
The expenditures are in this month's in revenues, and it's the $30,000 in the planning board.
Okay.
And to be clear, there are milestones that are built into that grant, and those milestones have to be met in order for the grant to actually be payable.
So now that after this, then I send the news postings to the Department of Commerce. They have a list. I received an email last week saying, I'd like these. I'm like, well, we're not quite through all of them yet. So as soon as we are, you'll get them. Other public comment? Last call for public comment.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is just Scott Hazelton with Highlight Engineers. I just wanted to thank the town for the opportunity to submit and wish you all the best of luck in updating your plan. So thank you for your time.
Scott, thank you for your time and putting in for it. I saw really great work out of the Madison County housing assessment needs. So I think you have a very promising firm all the way around.
You do, Scott, and thank you for submitting, and thank you for all of your hard work during the process, and good luck with your studies and your degree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the engineering company as identified by the Growth Policy Selection Committee.
Second.
Was there a second?
Yes, Jim,
There
I
was two of
seconded it.
them.
I'm sorry. I was looking that way.
Okay.
All right, discussion amongst. No? All right.
Aye.
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 All right. Who gave your presentation from Great West Engineering?
It was, I believe,
Jerry.
It was Jerry
Grebenek.
Gerbentz?
Yeah.
Gerbentz.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So I will contact Jerry.
I think all that information's in the recommendation that we sent over to you, Mayor.
Crap. So I'll contact Jerry for contract for those services. Local government review.
Good evening. Okay, so we have met, Brittany Hirsch for the record, the local study commission for the Ennis government review has met 3 times now, just kind of getting ramped up for planning, public engagement, different timelines for meetings. We're laying all those out. We have our next meeting is February 10th at 3 p.m. and we will be following that meeting with February 20th at 6 p.m. All meetings are at the library. We're kind of alternating 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., trying to catch folks that need to have meetings before they pick up kids from school or want to be home for dinner, and those that are working until 5 and can't come to a meeting until 6. So that was the plan for the commission to kind of do 2 different times. We plan to meet for 2 times every month at minimum, and then if we need a meeting in between to get things going, we can schedule those as needed. This last week we met and nailed down several plans that we have for public engagement that include a survey we're going to put together that will be available online. We'll print some, have them at the library, have them at town hall, maybe around town in various places to just gather as many pieces of information from Ennis residents that answer some basic questions. We're still working on what those questions will be, but that'll give us an idea of what are the key pieces to reviewing the current form of government that the town is operating under and possible options for making changes or suggestions should we get to that point. And then we'll do some outreach on Facebook. The town website is something that we've asked, made a request to have a page on the town website that would house all of our documents, our agendas, our meetings, outreach information, a link to the survey, different pieces of documentation and information that we're using as the study commission, as well as that we're gathering from other resources. So a page that we'd like to see just hold all the information for the public to access, as well as see previous meetings, agendas, and minutes and what's been going on in the past. We're going to plan on doing a couple mailers. So that way, right before the public hearing, which is kind of our big push to get engagement from town residents, we're hoping to have a mailer hit everyone's mailbox that week to invite them to the library. We'll have refreshments and snacks. So hopefully that draws in some additional folks that will be enticed to kind of see what we're doing and share their opinions about the process. Let's see, the commission has decided we'd really like to, I think I might have touched on this last meeting. I'm not totally sure if this was said, but we do want to expedite the process. Typically, you can prolong it for 18 months or 2 years, and we feel like we'd like to get this on the November ballot for 2025, so this year. So we have finalized our timeline to make sure we've got our tentative report done by this date, and then a final report essentially submitted to the town commission for approval on the July 10th meeting that you all will have. Once it's approved, ideally by the town commission, then it can move forward to be on the ballot in November. And then between July and November, should the commission approve it, that's when the study commission would love to just spend a lot of time with community outreach in addition to what we've already done to say, this is what's going to be on the ballot. Here's what you need to know about it so that you can make a decision to vote yes or no on X, Y, and Z options. So that is the gist of kind of what the details we've been nailing down in our first couple meetings. And then I sent an email to you just as a formal request for that town webpage. You mentioned that needs to go through the ID department. So if we could get that, that would be wonderful. And then we did vote at our last meeting to approve the spending on the MMIA insurance. I know part of it's free, but you were considering the workers' comp coverage for volunteers, I believe. So we found that, we did have enough funds in our budget to okay that. I think you said $6 a quarter per person. So that was voted on and we all approved it. So any questions for me? And also the next item on the agenda is Karen. So that's kind of cart before the horse, but yeah, she's been definitely an amazing asset. We are hoping that there's no question in appointing her as the ex officio member of the Ennis Study Commission. And we love so far the engagement that we've had at the library and the way that Karen and Bailey both really seem very engaged in the process, and community members that pop in and out of the library that they're seeing residents day in and day out. So I think they'll be a really important piece to getting the information out and making sure people feel like they've at least heard it several times before something comes up and they're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that in the paper. Or and I didn't mention that, but we do plan to do several postings, public notices on the calendar in the Madisonian as well. So sorry.
As far as public engagement, you, the mayor actually mentioned, like the student, the government or the students in government class are incredibly sharp, and I think it would be incredibly beneficial anytime you can get children involved, especially if I don't even know what grade are these students.
So I attended our local government senior class the last 2 years because I knew this was coming up, and then timing wise, hey, look, they could all vote even if we were going to participate. So I wanted them to understand like what it was. So I went in and kind of gave the spiel of it's basically getting to pick your pizza pie. Is your current pie really what's good for the era, or do you need a different combination of toppings or however you want to spill it? But I didn't have to simplify it very much for them. They were like down and dirty,
Is it like,
asking all the questions.
is it juniors or?
It's the seniors.
Nice.
Yeah, going prepared because then they're going to ask about like Bozeman zoning too, and Ted and Tiff. I mean, they were full prepared.
And I think you did mention that at our last meeting too, which is a wonderful idea. We've been kind of in the trenches of working through all these nitty gritty details of the timeline and making sure we're following processes that need to be in place before the outreach of the public is really underway. So I know that we all love that idea and think that that could be a great way to get students involved, but then also their parents, and it happens to be a great coincidence that Madison County is also doing it, so that folks that maybe hear about the Ennis local government review but don't live in Ennis, we can refer them to, well, the county is also doing this government review. So if you're not an actual town of Ennis resident, the county would love to hear your feedback because they're doing the same government review. So that, will coincide well. And then one of the things that we've actually, thinking of the questions you got, Nikki, were, making sure that we're clear on our scope of work when folks talk to us, because we're not touching the town codes, but we're looking at the actual form of government. So we've dove into the types of forms of government, commission executive, commission manager, the commission presiding officer, and just kind of looked at those to make sure that when we are talking to members of the public, that this is actually what we're looking at. The town charter, how is the government set up? We're not looking at the nitty gritty details of zoning code and, dog licenses and that type of thing. So I'm sure we'll hear it all, but we will deflect to the right people and then handle what we're there for. Karen, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
That's great.
Okay. Any other?
So you're having MSU come in as part of the package, right? When it gets down to
we will.
The final engagement
we need to
kind
book
of.
them. We need to get on their schedule, but our timeline really looks like we're going to push for this February 20th public hearing. That'll be the big, we're going to do a mailer, Madisonian town website, the survey. We're going to have all this public engagement information ready so that we can gather information, essentially, gather input from residents. And then what we want the MSU department to come and do is, when the commission has come up with what we believe would be a good offer to make changes or to not, based on the information we've gathered, is let MSU inform the local government or the local residents on what this would look like, so they can answer all those nitty gritty questions about, well, how's that different if we're going to go this, or if we're keeping things the same here but changing them here? What does that, impact me as a resident? So we want to bring MSU down for probably in between February and April at some point to have a public meeting and have them be able to answer questions from residents on whatever our suggestions might be to the commission.
If you're going to include MSU, you might want to see if there are any intern assistance that's available. And you could also look and see if there's the opportunity for a capstone project. that would help you with this. That way they help to do a lot of that research that you are going to have to do to really have a really good qualified decision. So a capstone project or an intern may be a very helpful prospect out of MSU.
Okay, I'll have to learn more about that because I don't know where the best place that would fit in would be, but definitely interested. Yeah.
Absolutely. And capstone projects are really great because what happens is that they actually can use that towards their thesis or to their final grade. And at the same time, they're providing a great wealth of service to the community, and it's preparing them for the future as they're stepping outside of college and going into the real world. It prepares them for possibly what their choice of study was, which would be government or whatever it may be.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure Dan and Ashley probably have a good connection with those students that would be interested. So thank you.
Yeah.
And if not, call up. We have a resident here that lives in Shining Mountains that teaches political science over there. So
okay,
give me a call
good
and I will get you his contact. I bet he might have a student or two in mind that it's like
help. Yeah, boots on the ground and cool. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
The timeline. So public hearings in, you said February?
February 20th.
And then MSU down in April.
We don't have them booked yet exactly, so a specific date, but they're more of when Lisa and I went to the training, Ashley emphasized April and early May being their most available timing. So if we've got an idea of what projections or recommendations we might have for the town, we either have them in early before our tentative report and final report or after, and their availability didn't seem as open later in the summer. So
makes sense. I was just wondering about our snowbird population. They'll miss the hearing and they'll miss the informational portion too. So they're kind of left.
Yeah, and it's, well, so the mailer too will go out to, we're going to pull the number or the addresses from the clerk's office. So all voters. So if you're registered to vote, because that's really who we're looking to talk to is people that are registered voters. Maybe that doesn't mean they're full-time residents necessarily, but they're registered voters. So if they're getting a ballot, that's who's going to get the public hearing notice, the mailer, a link to the survey so they can, give their input. So perfect. Anything else?
Do you want to go up next? Any other questions for Brittany? So the next is the appointment of Karen Ketchu as the ex officio member of the Local Government Review Commission.
I move to appoint Karen Ketchu
Ex officio.
As ex officio member of Local Government Review Commission.
I'll second that.
Public comment? No public comment? Second call? Third call? All right. Discussion. Any?
No, you really want to do this?
I was refraining from asking that, Joe.
Yeah.
You can get a whole county club going. Ex officios, isn't it? Who's ex officio in Virginia City? Isn't it? I believe it's the mayor. Oh. Is the ex officio? He said that today. That's what I didn't ask. I think he just said it today. And I was like, oh, you guys can have a club. Very selective club.
Yeah, I think the only city in the county that's not going through local government review is Twin Bridges.
Yeah, I think so.
Correct. Do you think? I don't know. All right. Any other further discussion? Good with the appointment?
Nope. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome ex officio. Okay, and on that note, we got a risk management bulletin from MMIA, which I always slightly panic. You know, what else do we have to do? But this was a simple guidance that says they're not actually automatically, by an extension, a part of your town. So if you would like to add them to your insurance policy, it can go under a clerical volunteer, is what we looked on our breakdown sheet, and it comes there. It's coming out of that budget, that fund, and it's $6.70. I think is what it is quarterly per person. But I have to get your permission to officially add a group that's not us to our insurance.
And that money you said's already in their budget, and they can swing that money out.
So
Easy choice.
Making sure that they're covered for what they're doing.
I move to add local government review to the MMIA insurance.
I second.
Any further discussion? Public comment? Second call. Oh.
I just have a question for clarification. I was looking through the packet and it was under the MMIA packet, but it said something about volunteers getting paid, I think. Like if you're X amount of hours, you're regular.
That they don't, it's not that they get paid. That's the
Right.
wage that you base for
Grant.
puts it out in time as like a casual volunteer or a consistent volunteer.
Yeah. Okay.
The consistent puts in more volunteer hours, so their rate is a little bit higher. They just plugged a number in there, call it $150 a month.
Okay.
It's so they can do the
You just base it
calculation.
Off of,
Okay.
off of that rate.
Is it the $50
I don't know how
or
they
is it the
come to
$100?
that wage, but that's what they're doing.
The skate park is actually going through the same process, so they can say they've had X number of dollars donated to the community, and then they qualify for a grant. So you're assigning a value to time.
Time, yeah, that's it. It's a good way to put it.
Last call for public comment. All right.
Aye.
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 All right. We'll have to have you come fill out paperwork.
Okay.
So I'll get the form and email you guys when I have it ready.
I'm sorry. This might be off topic a little, but I had emailed you asking to put the town hours on the website, so I know when I can come fill out paperwork or get my dog license.
We're updating our hours.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And just that way it's somewhere. I didn't hear it on the answering machine either. So I don't know if I just pushed the wrong number, but putting those on the website would be super handy, or on the Google profile. I don't know how easy that is to update, but current hours would be great.
Does Google call here like every other business, or is it just okay?
Get emails constantly.
40 times a day, I think.
Answering.
Yeah.
They're on automatic roto dial.
Okay. So once I have those forms, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
I don't. That is a good question. Is Karen's already covered under MMIA? Do we have to pay twice for her?
Assumption is that she would already be.
She's already excluded.
Yeah.
And she's ex officio, so.
She's not a voting. I don't know.
But she is volunteering her time if it's like later in the evening, or she's being, I mean.
I don't know,
as
maybe
far
they
as-
have to assign more hours to her time value in it.
But I feel like, I mean, when she's meeting, she's also at the library and people are asking her library questions, so she's on the clock. You know what I mean? Like, I feel, I don't know, that it's necessary, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. There are, I am volunteering hours on the course for Canova. So
it's my job plus volunteer hours, so however you want to handle it.
I mean,
They have to
it's
ask
an
the question.
insignificant amount of money if it came down to it being questionable.
You just have to ask the question.
Yeah.
She's already
Is it
on the
necessary or
library.
not?
Does she need to?
I'm gonna ask him, I just want to make sure that you guys are covered, that there's not some,
No one can come and sue Karen for.
we could have prevented it for $6.70 a quarter.
Yeah. Okay.
So. All right. Community Development Block Grant. So we applied for that in October. And we just got our letter that we did not receive that funding.
Did they say why?
No, they said we can,
Yeah,
you
no
need to,
letters in there. It's
yeah, you need to make an
super
arrangement.
competitive, blah, blah, blah.
This was the first.
23rd out of 30.
No, that's different.
Oh, that was one.
That's the MSEP that he's going for. This was the first year that we were even eligible. So, but I will make the contact to see where it was. But I guess it's super competitive. I'd like to keep a copy of the grant application, and then maybe we just learn our lessons and modify and go from there.
We're right on the verge of not qualifying for it because of like how much our community makes, correct?
Yeah, it's median income.
So if we make more money next year, we won't be on it any longer. And Virginia City they were in the paper receiving this, I believe.
It is one of the most competitive grants.
And it's a great grant, though. I mean, it's a grant that can be used for multiple things, doing both with downtown and having money to business owners and many other things. I've successfully won 2 community development block grants in the past, so they're great for the community and great for the community at large.
So we'll reevaluate that, look over it. We'll make the phone call and have their notes on it. And that means we'll have to probably update. It means we will have to update our water project funding and how we're going to do that. So I won't do any amendments to that until, well, I don't know. We might have to do it sooner. It's kind of a bummer because we have 2 grant other applications that are coming up. So, but that's where it's at. All right. I'll keep you updated on what I know. I'll probably have Mr. Nehan look over it so we have it in our pocket for the next time because I'm pretty sure our water problems are not magically changing. Still have a system that seems to be aging and in need of repair. All right. Received a complaint regarding residency of Commissioner Sully. So that complaint was filed. I sent it to Ed Guza. He returned with all Montana code regarding residency. I then sent that to Officer Moore to open investigation. He created an open investigation file and went through all statutes for residency and compiled his report and found that Commissioner Sully does in fact meet all requirements of residency for Montana code. Her voter registration is for One Mountain View, her driver's license, her water bill. If you would like to receive the full report, you have to submit an application to records request for police department. We have to redact part of it because it's got names and addresses and all this other stuff. So that is in compliance with everything Montana code requires for residency. So I have closed the case. That is what I have. Discussion. I guess it's always up for discussion.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's Montana code that everyone who's on the council lives in town. And I oftentimes get business owners asking me, like, you really need to change that. It needs to be, because I own a business. I have a vested interest in the community. But yeah, I guess as long as you're within it all, it's all good. So.
Other business owners who like to buy and get there.
All right, first call, public comment. Second call, public comment. Last call for public comment. What?
I was just being sarcastic.
I think he said waste of time, but I'm not sure. No.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, $5. You can have a copy of the full report after we take out. You don't get to see my birthday, but it's on there. You can really see it if you want to, but and my address, and so that's why it's on there. Is I've officially moved it into the complaint. There's things like that: your birthdays, your addresses, your this, that, and the others. So that's why it's not part of the file, not for public.
So, clarifying question, don't want to pay the $5 for whatever you just mentioned, but so it's voter registration.
Correct, was confirmed for one Mountain View.
What are the requirements? 2 of the 5 items, 3 of the 5, like what are the
Montana
or
code
can you tell me
actually
the code?
basically says
I
your
could probably
license. I can pull up.
Yeah.
Notes.
I'm just curious because I've never personally looked either, but
the one that we couldn't confirm because she doesn't have one is a hunting license.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the definitive in all the court cases. Is hunting and fishing licenses to establish residency.
Okay,
I can't. But yes, voter registration, vehicle registration, license.
Also,
And
if you're coming back to the property too, that's another thing that was actually considered. If you're, say, I go to Georgia for something, I know my husband mentioned, he said, we go to Arizona every once in a while, and Officer Moore said, does it matter? And I had pulled that up and looked at it too. As long as you're coming back to your home, to your property. And that building has 6,000 square feet. It has multiple entrances and exits to it. I set up, there was already one Airbnb established in that property.
this is your home you're talking
this is my personal home. Yeah. And so one of the things that they did look at was, I believe driver's license. They said I had a water bill coming there. Everything had checked out on all of that stuff. And Officer Moore came over and looked at the property and went through there and made sure I was cooking and living and whatever, I guess, goes on there. And stayed a couple of hours and looked at the Airbnb apartments and, just checked everything out, I guess,
dug into your life. Yeah. Interesting. So Mayor Haas, possibly this provokes something to happen in the future when there's open seats before the interview, possibly that, these items are presented ahead of time so that we don't waste anyone's time. And it's like this person we know they live in town because of these 3 things. I hope that we don't run into something like this in the future where it is questionable where someone lives and
surely
their
no
intents,
one would
but
offer to do this if they did not qualify.
I'm just saying,
to begin with.
We've never run into this,
Yeah,
so it might be something. I've spoken about this in town with various folks, and it's like, oh well, no one questioned John Way. He's my neighbor down the street. I pass him, he drives past my house. I know he lives there. I know where Corey Hardy lives. It's where all the Hardy drywall vans are. Very, it's very obvious, but it just made me think, policies that you don't think of putting in place until you run into a situation, and maybe that can be a very quick and easy thing in the future to not waste anyone's time and just make sure. Because one of the things we ran into with all 3 of your guys' seats is interview and appointment on the spot.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Here's their letter. Here's their interview. Here's your on the board. It was very quick turnaround.
I think the next,
there you go.
we just, as we do it, since we now know what the residency requirements are, you have to provide proof of residency. And the thing is, like, when we run, though, you don't have to. You go up to the clerk, you fill out a little paper, and it says, I attest under oath that I am. But that could be the other thing. But then it's still, it's probably better to prevent it rather than not, because there was a whole case where an attorney, a county attorney, identified as a county resident, but was not a county resident. And it took a very long time for him to be removed from office for them to prove that process. But that was his defense, was identified as
So
a
maybe
county
just
attorney.
due diligence beforehand.
Well, as a person that signed it and questioned it, the reason it was questioned was because there was no letter of interest. There was no letter of interest given to the public. So we came into that meeting that night, and all of us, So we questioned that because for everyone else, we had a letter of interest. For Mr. Nihon, we had a plethora of information, which was greatly appreciated that you provided that. But for you, we had nothing. There was nothing. And then, was your letter of how you can help the town, or was your letter specifically for the town commission seat? And we asked that. We asked that multiple times that night, and we weren't given an answer. So that's why it was questioned as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Well, y'all asked and y'all found out, so we've got that situated, I guess.
So it's closed, but I think from now on, appointments will just.
Was the letter of interest be added to the packet?
Well, maybe the letter of interest, and I'm not speaking for myself, but maybe the letter of interest just happened to be like, you know how it is. You're busy all the time. You've got stuff going. You've got your family and kids, and maybe they see a letter of interest and they say, come on over to the meeting if you're interested that night. And maybe it just kind of happened. And maybe it just didn't get done. But accidents and things like that do happen. So I think y'all need to be a little patient with that. But that's my opinion.
So yeah, I've got a fun fact actually. So I don't know the actual town or municipality, but when you have towns that don't have individuals that are full-time year-round residents, it has been put in place to allow someone who is a part-time resident of the community to attend meetings virtually, remotely. Yeah. So that was from Dan, or MSU Extension Office from Dan Clark.
Yeah, not to beat this to death, but the reality of it is that you want to make sure that the person has a vested interest in your community. You want to make sure that that person is paying taxes to the community, that they're engaged in the community. You want people engaged in the community to actually represent your community because they're in contact with other people from the community. They represent something. And that's the importance of it. And to actually have someone who's just a summer resident or a winter resident, to me, is not very purposeful. And I want someone who can vote in the community, someone who has that investment, because they're concerned about the community as you are. So, but I think hopefully this is behind us, and that we don't need to run into it again. Sorry, I had to ramble.
No, you're good. I think we just, again, like if we get the same document that the clerk and recorder has, or something similar, and then also perhaps like proof of residency, which would be your driver's license, your fishing license, which apparently is guru of gurus. So sorry I didn't have mine.
It's hard to get a fishing license.
Is it?
First year I had a driver's license, I had a house, I had everything, and they were like, you haven't lived here 6 months yet. You cannot have a fishing license.
So that's why they use it.
Yeah, it's the hardest form. It's 180 days consecutively.
Consecutively, yes.
So that is
even
why
if
it
you
is.
get your driver's license on December 1st, which I did, and I went in to get a fishing license in March, they said, no, you've got a driver's license. It doesn't make you a resident.
Okay. Lesson learned. So if you have a fishing license, definitely are in.
You are
6
the
months.
king of the hill.
Yep.
So that would be proof for like an election. Actually. Yeah. Because that's 6 months, not the 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, driver's license is only. Actually, you can get a driver's license as soon as you get here if you've got a job.
Yeah. But that 180 days consecutively, I always wondered about that. So you get to day 179 and your car breaks down in Island Park, and do you start back at zero, or do you, you know what I mean? And you have to spend the night.
You have to spend the night away.
Yeah.
I do want to commend you guys for bringing the complaint. The interest that the public has in making sure that this board is correct is admirable, honestly.
I second that.
And I didn't have a problem with it. I really didn't. I think it should, no, if you don't have anything to hide, you have nothing to worry about. So, you know, like I said, I'm not one of those that would volunteer if I thought I was going to get, you know, like, yeah, I wouldn't do that anyway, but there are people, yeah, so I get you.
Okay, so I don't know if that like becomes like a policy thing that we have to look at, or you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, why
Does that fall under your purview?
That
I
is
just
different.
think make it a procedure that happens. I don't think everything needs a written policy and 4 public hearings.
What about if before you come to the meeting, if somebody has an interest like that, there's an application to fill out or just something with contact information, and they could, you know, scan their driver's license or their hunting and fishing license with, if it says a verifiable form of ID attached, or send it in or something like
I looked
that.
up Montana State Code before I even sent it.
Gold standard, I guess.
I was like, I don't know. That's a good listserv question.
Well, we can always ask.
You know what I mean?
So
there's the mayor's listserv, so maybe somebody has already approached this and knows the answer.
That's a good point.
So listserv asks question on application for filling vacancy. Because then you would do it for all boards, basically.
Well, it shouldn't be any different than the requirements to actually put your name on the ballot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to put your name on the ballot, you need to follow the same criteria if you're going to actually fill a vacant position.
They're different though, 60 days and 6 months, I think. But other than that. Okay. Question. All right. Resort tax focus group appointment. So that's my wordsmithing. Because if you go to the 3rd edition of MSU's guidebook and you start going through committees, I'm like, this actually becomes what kind do you want and this, that, and the other. And I think at the end of the day, it was really the whole idea is to focus on our community and decide if this is really, as a commission, where we want to be. So it's an advisory, basically, focus group that's going to reach out and start doing the groundwork for if this is a viable option for Ennis, Montana, or if it's not.
And Tony's going to help me focus, which I need.
Maybe that's why I put that word there. No, just but it actually seemed the most suited of the terms for community involvement groups. So with that in mind, it kind of outlines what a focus group does. That's in the packet as well. Who all is on your focus?
Tony Treglia, Mitch Abernathy, and Bob Bailey.
I have another name I can get that talked to me previously that would be interested too.
Cool. Yeah. And anyone else that wants
I would
to
actually
come
be
to a
interested
focus
in,
group?
yeah, I would be interested in helping. You mentioned that, I think the first. day
You're a
was
quorum,
here,
so just let me know. That's the only thing I have to say about that is you three make a quorum.
Right.
So you have to let me know if you are meeting.
Oh, okay.
Even
that's
if
right.
it's over drinks, if you were
Part
actually
of your
discussing
sunshine,
that.
or is that what's it called, the sunshine?
Public
Well, you
meeting,
have to let people know. Anyway,
public
yeah.
meeting law requires that
More
three of
than
you are a
two can
quorum.
meet,
If you
yeah.
are discussing business, it must be publicly noticed at least 76 hours in advance. 48. 48.
Corey, let's not do that. Let's not make this a quorum what we have to notice. Let's get together and start talking to businesses.
Okay.
Come down and talk and present it back.
Sure.
Get a little
sure.
further along before we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it a little bit less formal.
But I like
I'll
this.
help in any way
Provide.
if you need anything, or knocking on doors or talking to people or whatever. I'll be glad to do anything off the.
I'll make cookies if you need cookies.
Well, the interesting thing is if you do it just like a true focus group, I mean, realistically, you could, as a group, put together a number of questions, and a lot of government study groups do this. Participated in many in the past, and what you do is you get 25 people from the community to come in of a different mix and have them sit, and you ask them their questions and you ask them for their views on the questions, and then when you're through, basically what you do is you have all of that great input, and then you're able to evaluate it. And if you feel that there's a slant one way or the other, then you know which group you need to work on, and you need to know what would actually help you to take it across the finish line, because you know really why the public is leaning one way or the other.
First, we need to identify how we're going to present this to the public.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably a
Baby steps.
25% off.
Baby steps.
75 minutes.
Again, you fit this focus group thing so well. Can provide insightful understanding of complex issues? Yes. You guys got this. So with that in mind, are we officially forming our appointment of that group, of our focus group?
I don't think so.
Who is the facilitator going to be?
Mr. Hardy, I think.
Sure.
Mr.
I'm the expert, so yeah.
I don't
Just ask him.
Huh?
Just ask.
I don't think you can, according to the document that was in the packet, that you can't be involved in local government. Pretty sure that's what
For focus groups?
Montana code said. On focus groups, yeah. You attach the Montana code,
No, I attached 7.107 of
focus groups.
Where is it?
Montana Municipal Officials Handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Where it came from.
What'd you say, Mitch?
The focus group quote that she pulled out came from the Montana Municipal Officials Handbook.
Well, it says,
Yeah,
second paragraph.
7.107, that's not an MCA number.
Yeah, it says the group is led by an impartial facilitator using someone outside of local government.
So Tony, you'd have to be the facilitator.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sweet.
Is that from MCA?
It doesn't
That's
quote
in the
MCA.
packet. What
It does not.
7.107 focus groups?
7.107 is from the Montana Municipal Officials Handbook.
It's the 6th line down on that.
Yeah, it's not from the Montana State Code.
was Montana Code annotated.
What is it from?
Third
I've
edition
said it 4
Montana.
times. The Montana Municipal Officials Handbook is where it came from. It's the last line on there. Yeah.
Sorry.
3rd edition.
And the next question would be, why was it in the packet?
I'm sorry, couldn't hear.
The next question would be, why was it in the packet if it's not relevant?
No, we're not saying it's not relevant. We're just saying it's not Montana,
Montana
code.
code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Usually someone outside, but there's nothing in there that quotes that it has to be. We can pull up the 3rd edition and see if there's, I mean, we have discussion. We can
I know
always
that one very well.
see if there's something that fits better. I just thought that it was actually a fairly good fit for what we were trying to accomplish.
Me personally, I
Doesn't
don't.
matter who's leading it. I mean, you're all going to be present at your get-togethers anyway. The initial texter that says we're meeting here.
It's actually Willie's. It's a two drink limit. I mean, I'm just
I
curious.
think we just need to research Montana code.
I'm just
before
curious
call
why
this
we
an
have to
official focus group.
call it anything, you know. I mean, ultimately, we could have somebody come in for public comment. Maybe it's Tony, maybe it's one of the members of the group, and speak relevantly about, about resort tax.
You're the expert.
Have we approached
I'm
any other
not the
business
expert
owners?
on what we're calling our group.
Have we approached any other business owners to see if they'd be interested?
No.
I see your business, I see your name in the paper every Wednesday as the expert.
I am. Yeah, I was ultimately just fine with, we weren't going to be keeping minutes for it. And ultimately we just generate a document that somebody would read aloud on a public comment or an agenda item.
I'm gonna call it a committee.
Then we'll have to keep minutes. That'll make it even more formal, I think.
Minutes are not bad.
Have a secretary,
They're
Yeah, I
very
mean,
good.
then you fall into 23203 public meeting minute, it has to be noticed, it has
to
be.
post it, record it. Oh, I don't know that you have to record it as
You
long
don't
as
have to
keep
record it, you
minutes.
just have to keep minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I've been a member on 4 boards right now, which is plenty.
Neighborhood Advisory Council or Residential Community Association, informal neighborhood group with potential to influence local government. It doesn't have a Montana code number. Any community councils do.
Can we ask Ed about a focus group?
Usually if there's a requirement and can't say
It's listed there.
they have it highlighted and linked in the guidebook. That's why the community councils, I was like, oh, nope, that requires an election 73223, 73317, 73417, and 73516 all required those council forms to function in an election process. And this is more of an advisory.
And then are we going to have to get MMIA insurance for our little gatherings. Why can't we just call it a resort tax club?
A private club.
Yeah, then you can get by with a lot.
I will say this seriously. This has failed 3 times. Is it 3 times? The resort tax has failed 3 times. Or 2? Twice.
Jim Hart says 3 times.
That's what I thought.
He's voted
Was
on
3
it
times. So if you don't approach this with an open base that we're having this conversation, then I don't think this conversation will go well in Ennis, Montana. That is my personal opinion of it. But if you have historically lost this bid 3 times consecutively, it's not going to be it's not an easy answer. It's not an easy win. It's a lot of hard work all the way through. And that's why I thought the focus group was basically problem solving of actually hearing both sides of it. That's what I'm seeing from what a focus group does. Almost said that. Sorry. And nowhere in there does it require an election. I still think it's probably the most fitting of them. And it doesn't really matter if Tony's leading it or Corey's meeting it. It's at least getting this group to be able to have a conversation by you guys doing the groundwork and hearing what people have to say about it. Is this really where we're headed?
So I haven't been a fan of the ideas of resort tax since I've been here. But what's changing my opinion is we don't have any money, right? And we got some big problems that we have to fix. And
In a very short time.
in a very short time. And the other thing I was hearing was, state of Montana is looking at how do they get more money out of the tourists that come in here that's hurting the infrastructure. And so that's when I started talking to the expert about, I might be swayed here, but we have to do it in a way that makes sense and keep it focused on what are those non-essential things that we can go after so the town can have some money.
Yeah.
So we can have water.
And trust me, I know all the hotel owners and the old folks that have been here for a while have already said, we'll fight this one to death. So I already know what we're up against there.
And I just think this group's a chance for that actual understanding of everybody's thoughts on it. I think that's going to be a hard one to just jump straight into large public meetings.
Right.
You're going to have to educate the public on what it is that they are doing and what they're not paying out of their pocket and they need to be educated thoroughly, because the first thing when anybody hears the word tax, they think they're paying it. And people just don't like that.
I don't think it's that the business owners feel that they're going to have to pay it. The business owners feel they're going to lose customers.
I believe you actually said something about that at one of the meetings. You spoke up and you said something kind of under your voice about, businesses being affected. So I do think.
But we are sandwiched. We're sandwiched
Yes.
between 2 towns that already have a resort tax. So we're the last place. What's the third one?
Virginia City, West Yellowstone, and Big Sky.
Well, I don't count Big Skies on this side. But I mean, we're sandwiched between Yellowstone and Virginia City. There's nowhere else for people to go if they want to fish this section of the Madison. And they've done it before.
As far as these hotel owners, I'll be
got-
honest,
we're
I
the
don't
last
own a hotel, but the
town standing.
Airbnbs that I have down there, they do not pay attention to what they are paying. It's included in it, whether it comes through, I have a channel system that books everything. So VROB, Airbnb, bookings.com, Google Vacations, all of those go through one centralized booking. And I don't deal with the money or anything, it just goes straight from those guys. They get their commissions and they pay it over here to the county or to the city. But I mean, it's not anything that I personally think is going to be affected. I mean, my people who come, they come for funerals, They come back to speak at a funeral. They come because of a wedding. They come in because they're going to Yellowstone, and the rooms are $400 a night. So they would rather, stay with me or whoever, and they do things while they're here. I've had people that were renting for a month in Bozeman, and they came over here to enjoy the town. Got over here and they said, "Hey, we want to stay a couple of nights. My husband and son's on the river, and we, just like to hang out here." And so there's a variety of people, but they never,
But the reason, I think, the reason that the residents are against it, right, is because the tax affects them. And so they'll pay it because it's on non-essential items.
Yes,
right?
and then you could look at, and I don't know where this gets out in legalities, but I did speak about this to my son just because of our business over in Virginia City, and wondering how it works over there. And we were talking about the fact that, let's say somebody comes in from out of town and they want to go in the store and they buy a new fishing pole or whatever, and maybe their buddy that's local, they buy it for them so they don't have to pay the tax on it. And you get people who try to skim by like that on things. But, it might be that you could have some type of ID or verification that you could make it for certain times of the year. You could make it for, you could make it fit to this community versus.
It's limitless.
Yes.
There are more differences between all 13 towns that have it than there are similarities.
Yes. So you could make it to be what the people would accept and be willing to would be better than nothing at all. So we might have to look at that route.
I think you're not discussing the people who are being quiet. The people who are being quiet and who are going and voting against it are people that know that this possibly could be a next step to a sales tax in the state, and that it's a major concern. And people live here and have lived here because they want to be in a state that does not charge a sales tax on everything that they purchase. And sales taxes have just run amok around the entire country. And I'll tell you that it's a very important thing, but people are very quiet about it because they don't want to raise that point. They're just going to sit on their hands and they're going to vote against it. You're never going to hear from them unless you find some way to actually get them to actually stand up.
No, you're going to have to ask them too. You're going to have to ask them and go door to door and knock on some of them and meet these business owners and these people that live. And I'm not saying it's the answer to all of it, but
I've seen it too many times. So they're school overrides, for police department overrides. People use overrides and they turn around and say, "Hey, it's just a pizza and a beer and no big deal." And pizza and a beer is a big deal to somebody who lives on a fixed income, who only has a certain amount of money coming in every month, and they can't afford to have a pizza and a beer anymore because they're concerned that they're going to be hit with something that is the next step, which is actually a sales tax.
well, and that's a good point because I had not thought about that anybody would really be thinking of, well, we don't have state sales tax, so this is going to affect us. I personally not even thought about that.
It depends how you defeated things like this in the past, because I have to think about the people who are living on fixed incomes.
Yes, but I understand the deal with fixed income, but why? But that again is where, is this not true that it could be where, any locals don't have to pay this
Well, the flip
this
side,
tax?
flip side of that is if we don't have another revenue stream, we will have to raise
Taxes, yes. So they'll wind up paying one
They're
way or the other.
They're going to pay one way or the other.
But they
In
don't.
that case,
raise.
you're targeting the residents, right? And if we can set up a resort tax that targets the non-residents that are using the infrastructure, who's not paying for it today, then that's where I'm leaning. That's where I'm leaning in all this. That's where it makes sense.
Oh, well, a lodging tax. Instead of calling it a resort tax, you call it a lodging tax. That's where everybody's, most of it is
we
going.
already collect an 8% lodging tax for the state, right?
It's 13% in Arizona.
Well, I don't care, but it's 8% now. And if you put 4% on lodging, there's 139 hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how many Airbnb rooms there are, but that's not where the revenue is going to come from. That's a piece of it, right? Yeah. When we start looking at restaurants, we start looking at outfitters, right? All these other things. That's where the revenue is going to come from. Lodging's a piece, but you can look at a whole bunch of different things. And that's where we have to look at, how do we target the tourists that are coming through, that are using the infrastructure, that are using it for free, and the residents, right? If we don't do something, and we have to go out and pass more mills, it's the residents that are gonna have to pay for it.
Right. Can we have a donation box instead? That's
Yeah.
like,
It's a hard concept.
Rentals and the Airbnbs and the VRBOs and
Well,
all those first.
They should be.
Well, all those,
They should be.
either, like he's saying, they're either eating in the restaurants or they're buying food at Madison Foods.
No, I'm talking about their license.
So, yeah, but, so currently.
Point of order here, are
Yeah.
we discussing the
I think it's just the
merits of a
formation.
resort tax, or are we appointing a focus group?
That we need an advisory committee, basically, right?
Yes. You need an ad hoc committee that can research it.
Right.
Airbnb will collect it.
Are we there?
So
Ad
it
hoc.
boils down to, do we appoint a focus group, or do we let it, because if we appoint it, then it falls under the umbrella of local government, and they need to notice it, and they need to take notes, and they need to do all the great things that local government makes you do? Or do we just say, go figure this out?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I want to.
Yes,
I
that's
want to
the
have a club,
You want to have a club?
a resort tax club.
It does make it difficult.
We have a special
when
knock.
you get into so many. The same people in every community do the same thing. They all are the ones that want to help, and they're the ones that want to volunteer. And then you get 3 meeting in one place. You know,
Okay, so this
Gotta
is
figure
my
out
problem
something
with
to
it is I guess we budgeted for this purpose for an educational piece. Should you need it?
Right. So that's just for the brochure.
Okay.
So we can, come and make some public comments, or can I not come in here and be like, here's what my group came up with, or not my club that I'm a member of? Does anybody have a problem with that? Not a problem with it, but is it legit?
All you have to do is walk up to the microphone during public comment and say whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
Sure.
just not from behind this table
Not
because
from
it
behind the
appears to be
table.
an official
Right.
declaration.
Just be
Sure.
a resident when you go up to talk about it.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter is that you could have an ad hoc study group that would fall under the government that wouldn't necessarily be as stringent that you need to follow all protocol.
So we'd have to re-put this, so an ad hoc study group on, it'll be an agenda item then, and we'll vote on it that way, or is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah.
Sorry, so you're just changing the name to vote on it again?
Next time. We
If
have to
it's
put it back
not
on the
my
agenda.
committee, then why do you need to do that?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
I think you need to vote on it. I think it's a waste, but that's just me.
You guys asked them.
All right. So we're to the discussion. You want to make a motion to not have it, or you were leading this point?
Is that what I would do at this point? Make a motion to not do this? Agenda item, or nobody?
No, it's just discussion.
Nobody makes a motion.
All you have to do is table it and never take it off the table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just table it.
All right, I make a motion to table the resort tax focus group appointment.
And don't hold a vote on it. You're just tabling it, right?
Just table.
And then if you
Table.
don't vote on it, then you can bring it up in the future. But if you vote on it, then you can't bring it up in the future.
But in the agenda, it's only a discussion. There's nothing.
I have vote if you're appointing a group.
Discussion and.
This is
No,
both.
it just says discussion.
It says
No,
it's
it's
vote.
discussion and vote.
It's discussion.
If there
I
was a
think it says
revised
discussion
one.
and vote.
I got it from up there.
Oh.
It does.
You got an old copy. It got changed on
I wasn't, I didn't
maybe.
have my glasses on.
Just a
Okay.
motion to table.
Tabled.
Yep.
All right.
Does it need a second? No second?
Nothing.
Nope.
No.
Tables.
Just
Tables.
Just table.
That's it.
Yep.
Leave it. No more discussion.
Let's move.
How did other places do what you're trying to do? You need to investigate.
Yeah, I will. I will investigate.
All right.
Let's talk.
Contract with Montana League of Cities and Towns for clerk services.
Where is that at? Am I looking at one?
It's for the audit, financial audit, right?
What are we moving on to?
Contract with Montana League of Cities and Towns for clerk services.
Is there a contract here for us to approve?
It's called Agreement for Financial Services.
I'm like, yes, yes, it's here. I thought I had to swear I put it in there.
It's in here.
Okay,
I'm looking at it.
that's the wrong drive, so I wasn't gonna find it there, so that's good for me.
Oh, I did see this, yeah. So you just need a motion to approve this contract for this help.
Correct.
Yep.
So, and then, because it wasn't an original budgeted amount, we went through the budget and, in finance, right? Yeah, finance, membership and registration. There's 650 there, and then we had 1,500 for travel. That was for Ginger to go to the clerks conference. And then we have, where is this? I wrote this down. So 650 from financial for the membership and registration, 1,500 for travel, 500 from the admin line, and then a portion from water and sewer.
I'm sorry, how much from water and sewer?
675 is one option.
Can I ask a question about this? This is to perform bank reconciliations. What time frame of bank reconciliations are we looking at?
This is from
What months?
Mitch,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna look at all of 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna, in addition to this, and I didn't make it in here, they're gonna be doing training with me
Mm-hmm.
as well. So we are gonna review, and there I have, several months in 23, 24 that I just can't yet, so they're gonna help with that. And then we will look at, the first 6 months of 24, 25.
So
And
they're not doing 12 months in 23, 24 fiscal year. They're just assisting you with the ones that you can't figure out.
Right.
Okay.
But that's throwing all of them
Go
off.
back and review everything that I've done.
As part of training.
From talking, it's Jody and Jody. They have a different way that they think will be very helpful for me. So we can combine that.
Okay. So realistically,
So
this is more training than it is.
It's both.
We're
Yeah.
gonna look at cash reconciliation, training and getting us up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Training for both.
That's my question, yeah.
First, we're gonna tackle the documents not on site, and then see where we are in the contract, and then make arrangements to come down with the remaining. They project that should be able to do part of it, and if not, we'll have to figure out another training section.
So both of them will not be
Training
trained.
for Brenna and Ginger?
Yeah.
And each one specializes in a different area of reconciliation, and that's what, when we talked to Jody Campbell.
We talked to Jody Rogers.
See, missed him already. So the other Jody,
Jody Campbell is more on the utility side.
she specializes in utility billing and online payments. And so we noticed that that's where we started to fall behind. And so she said she's got a really good system of how she does it. Jody Rogers was Shoto, and she fought any online payments because of the control, I guess is how she put it, that she likes to have as the clerk. So she never, I mean, she fought it tooth and nail until she left because of the complications that we're seeing. And so the other Jody has worked with other towns, like including Twin Bridges, that have started taking the same payment methods and ran into the same pitfalls that we did when we started doing some of that. Try and make it easier, and then you see the unintended consequences. It's still a great system. We just need to learn a better way.
When did she help Twin Bridges?
I don't know. I can ask.
And that's Jody Rogers.
Correct.
It was fairly recently that she helped Twin Bridges, because I know Matt over there was telling me about her.
Oh.
Said she did good work.
Matt just started not too long ago, maybe.
No, Matt Greenwood, he's one of the commissioners there.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking their new clerk.
Oh, yeah, when
Right, the clerk from Twin Bridges actually works in Sheridan now.
Yeah.
Right.
Christy.
But Christie's in Sheridan, but they have a new one in Twin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
Sure.
But
so this contract, basically, I was reading it, is $65 an hour with a maximum of 4,000.
Uh-huh.
So they're contemplating about 61 and a half hours combined.
Correct.
Yeah.
They want, Jody thinks we can do it in 40.
Okay.
Which would be the 2,600, and the remainder would be if there is any travel to meet in person.
2 years worth of audits, and they think they can do it in 40 hours?
Yes, it can be done.
I call bullshit.
Well, let's see. Well,
Give them to me. I'll get them done in 40 hours.
Is the 4,000 max, is that per month?
No, this
No,
is a
it's
one-time
one-time.
one-time
Over the,
contract.
over the contract.
Okay.
That's over the contract, and that includes any cost for travel.
Yeah.
Maximum we can pay is $4,000.
Contract not to exceed.
Yeah.
Okay, so with where you were able to pull money from, is this all budgeted, or are you gonna have to do a budget amendment to cover this?
No, it would be, if it was a budget amendment, it would just be to change an object code from travel to something else.
Yeah, from
But-
travel to other purchase services.
But, well, actually, Nikki, I meant the training, and it's covered under other purchase services. So, I meant the 1,500 that was travel
Mm-hmm.
would be, could still be considered the travel portion.
Yeah, so she's not going to conference this year. Instead, we're using the funds for this because she thinks, and I agree. I think that at this point, focus training and somebody to sit down and go through it is going to be more productive than the block courses.
Yeah.
It
And,
has
and
to.
the reason I say it can be done in 40 hours is because once you identify what the out of balance reasons are, after you've done it one time, all 24 of the other ones fall right in line, and it takes minutes.
Okay, but it's been done wrong for years, so how can we
We're
be
only
assured?
doing 23, 24, and 24, 25.
Right, but how can we make sure that this training is successful and we're not gonna have to pay this $4,000 again next year?
And
It's been repeated for 10 years.
Well, that will fall on I guess the mayor to do a review on the clerk doing the reconciliation.
well, and if I may, your next item on the agenda also is, the Department of Administration is going to be tracking us.
Yeah.
Or tracking me, per se. I have someone assigned that I'm talking to on almost a daily basis.
So,
Oh, yeah, your mic too.
So in effect, because of the DOA, we're gonna run into this issue anyway. The training's gonna have to happen.
I think it's time for the town to invest in a specified training if we're finding an area that needs improvement.
Well, and
I mean, we do this in any kind of area that
we've talked about this exact training with these exact people, like for
Several
6
times.
months now.
Yeah.
like I've been trying to get this contract together since September.
Yeah.
So in that case, why is it not discussion and vote on it tonight? Why? Right, because you're on a timeline with the DOA anyway, so why would it not be discussion and vote on this contract tonight to get it initiated?
Is it on the agenda for discussion and vote or just
No.
review?
No,
Just review.
It doesn't say anything. It says contract with Montana.
Yep.
It really falls under professional development though, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, professional development has to happen on a regular basis for people to be proficient at their jobs. There's not any place who has accountability that's not doing professional development and investing in it with projects like this, programs like this.
And we didn't have this ability before. The league didn't have Jody and Jody.
They just created it. Yeah.
So,
So
and it's
after we-
because the need has been there.
After we take the 4,000 and the 15, reallocate the 1,500 to this, we've got 2,500 left. And you said that's under your purchases, other purchases,
Purchase services.
other purchase services?
But one of them is like membership and registration, is that right?
Yes.
That would have been my fees to attend training.
Was that for the conference or something else? That was for the conference?
It would be
So the travel was 15, how much was the membership?
650.
650? I think a budget amendment is prudent, so we can track it.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, I'm less concerned with, I think this training is great. And I think we probably need to do it and buck up and pay the $4,000.
I agree.
I'm more concerned with, it's not on the agenda for discussion and vote.
Yeah.
And we need to get, we need to make this happen.
Sooner rather than later.
Sooner rather than later, but it's not on our agenda right now, so we cannot vote on it tonight. So we cannot move the chains on this at this point, which buggers up the timeline. Unless anybody has a creative way to do this.
Can you have a call meeting?
Special meeting?
Just for that?
Well,
Can
we
you
can
do
call
that,
whatever
or-
meetings we want, as long as we notice them and,
Yeah, but I
jump
mean, do you
through.
have the time to do that? If you went ahead, say tomorrow and got it going, could you have a meeting?
We have to give, what,
You
4
need
days?
to give public notice.
Yep, 48 hours.
You need to post it.
Adults.
Yep.
Okay, so this isn't the only contract. Well, the discussion and vote. Tomorrow there's supposed to be the auditor one showing up, and it is very, very expensive. So I have contacted the old auditor as well to see if they're still on the table, so I can present you with multiples. But they want them this month.
Can we
You think you'll have
notice
both?
a meeting in 2 weeks?
Less than that, middle of next week. Do you think
Middle
you'll
of
have
next
both
week?
of them?
Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesday?
I am in Billings Tuesday night.
It's, if we're just voting on that one item, we
I don't
can
have
all
to be here.
There's gonna be
remotely
2.
call
Yeah.
in.
We're gonna have the auditor and this one.
Yeah, if the auditor's here, that's gonna require a little bit more thought and discussion.
Oh,
You can't push it out for 2 weeks.
No.
Next Thursday?
Question.
We're trying
do
to
Thursday.
decide on when to
I
have
can
the
do
next
Wednesday.
meeting to vote on this.
Tuesday's only, I have 8:15 a.m. in Billings
On Thursday?
on Wednesday morning.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
why Tuesday nights.
how about Monday the 20th?
They're already
It's
meeting.
all-
It's a holiday.
Right, but part of your crew's already here having a meeting anyway.
That's one person that's not getting paid holiday pay and overtime. I mean, I already don't like Sundays.
So just figure it out. What day works?
Do you want Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday's fine.
It doesn't matter to
Thursday's
me.
fine with me.
Just so you know, I'm out of state all next week.
Yeah.
I'm only staying in state to do the meeting on Monday, and then I'm hopping on a plane heading out of state.
And next Wednesday, I'm testifying on the town's behalf at the legislature again.
On Monday and Wednesday. Right?
Monday and Wednesday, I'll be up there for town. So it doesn't matter. I mean, that'll be quick. It's at 10:30 committee meetings. Those guys get hungry for lunch, so they tend to move them along. So I'll be back.
You're leaving what time Monday?
My plane leaves at 6 o'clock out of Bozeman. So we're doing a 10 o'clock meeting. And I didn't know if I was going to have to go up to the State House with John. I don't.
No,
So I'm
I
just
got-
going to jump on a plane. But I'm going out to do systems integration for the MBTA. So I have to be there.
Can you do virtual?
I can do
Thursday.
virtual,
Or Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday or Thursday.
Either one of those.
Either one's fine with me.
Take your pick.
Thursday.
Okay.
What's the date?
Okay.
Can I ask a question on the contract? Did I catch correctly that the Jody and Jody will be working on the cash reconciliation, not here, like remotely first, and then coming down for training once they get it caught up, or what?
Correct.
Okay, so
To
so-
save on the
Save on the
travel
travel.
because
Yeah.
Jody, one of them comes all the way from Shoto and one of them comes from just Cascade.
Is it? I got your.
Awesome.
I just remember those were very long road trips and I'd like to not pay for that much road time.
multiple times. Awesome.
And there,
So then
when
I,
it's in person, if we're like comfortable with the back and forth, we may meet in Helena to reduce the travel expenditure from their part, and they can both meet there, and then do in person there is another option that we're talking about. They're both super familiar with Black Mountain and our system and everything else.
yeah, that was my question. So IT will be setting them up with remote access to the town's Black Mountain software and
It's
assuming-
a cloud drive just to share documents, so it's going to be like scanned.
so they're not seeing the live Black Mountain or like the utility billing online payment system where you can pull reports and reconcile the payment that went into the bank account to the checking account in Black Mountain.
Right.
They're not accessing any of that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the question. So how do they train on fixing an issue that, because if it all stemmed from this online payment system that was set up in 2022 and didn't, is that what I'm gathering? Online UB payments not being able to be reconciled, or is it a lot of other things?
That's a lot of the payments coming back and us not catching them in the timely manner, and it's establishing the routine and how and when. Like,
Because I just
every
imagine
15 days. One clerk does it every 15 days as a weird batch. I can't remember, as Jody was explaining it, a different process and how she does it is depending on which type of payments you do.
Right,
Like
right.
pay.gov is super simple and it's how it drops and does its thing. But it's the other ones when they're grouping it and trying to get the reports pulled for each count and then reconciling it to our Black.
Yeah, so are they going to have access to that UB reporting system so they can pull the reports in as they need them to make sure?
I think we're going to,
if they're looking at the bank statement, they're like $67.23. That's not on this report provided to us by Ginger or Brenna. Now I have to email and say, hey, I'm missing this number. Can you pull me this report? Instead of giving them live access to Black Mountain and to the UB payment portal, pay.gov plus the one that's set up, that I did when I was here in 2022. I feel like that would be a much more efficient way for them to be able to bounce back and forth on a live system rather than requiring extra time on Ginger and Brenna's
I'll have to look at it.
report polling.
And we said when we met with her on the phone, I mean, we didn't go over fine details.
It was
We
mostly-
did say that if the contract was going to be approved, that we would call and set up, find out what exactly they're gonna require to have.
Yeah.
Or how they want it.
In the contract? Shouldn't that be in the contract?
No, the details of how they're gonna get the job done is typically not in there. They're basing their estimate on what they've done in the past.
Yeah, but they do need to have full access to the
They do.
software.
Then they will
Reporting
ask
tools.
for
There's no way to do it efficiently without doing it.
Yeah, I just find as a bookkeeper, if you're working from reports that have already been pulled and they're like hard copies, but maybe something's changed, then you're going to run into, okay, you fix one thing in December of 2023, and then that's a trickle effect down to all these other ones. And now they're going to need to ask Ginger for more reports because the number that they're looking for isn't on the old reports. And I just think live access to Black Mountain,
Yeah, all it does.
Pay.gov, and the other utility billing
And it
payment portal
inflates the
would be
hours and the costs, and it
advantageous.
hits the full threshold of $4,000 where we may not do that.
Yeah.
We could exceed it, I think, but
Okay.
Especially if
I'm gonna
they're-
see what that takes. If that's read-only access to. They're all packages. All Black Mountain software is additional packages. If we want to have read-only, it's an add-on. I mean, it's not that we can't do it. If you would like to look at it, then we can sure call Black Mountain and price it out. If we're looking at budget, it's a good time to look at it. Do we want any of the Black Mountain add-ons? But we got rid of invoicing, accounts receivable when we got rid of the ambulance. So now we do invoice tracking through a little 3-ring binder. Do I find it the most effective? No. In my dream world of a resort tax of money falling from heaven, I would have that add-on back on. There's all kinds of them, but it's like what's bang for our buck?
I don't think anybody's
Well, I think we were
questioning
talking
that.
about giving them access with a username and password. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to go out and buy another package. We just provide a username and password for them to get you temporary access. Yeah. So whoever's,
Yep.
yeah,
And for Christ's sake, you're signing a contract with a bookkeeper.
yeah.
To help you get your things in line.
It's
So
just
I think you can trust them.
The only thing that I would
finance
check is just to, I'm not sure what they're affiliated with, but if they have a bond, that in case they do something in the software that we end up having to pay someone else to fix, we need to make sure that they're going to be on the hook for it. They're bonded.
I'm betting, but I will double check.
I'm sure they are.
They're MMIA.
Yeah, they're MMIA. I figured they are, but that's my only concern.
But their insurance writer for league is.
But
is
giving
through
them
MMIA.
access to.
But that's a good point to double
Giving
check.
them access to bank reconciliations and the software, it does not mean they can do anything. They can't write a check because they can't sign it. They don't have the checks.
And
They can't initiate bank drafts.
You could probably give them like, sideboards. Like when I send my stuff to the accountant, it's this quarter.
Mhm.
Go tell me what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And he looks at this quarter at one time, and then he looks at the next quarter at one time, and
Well, I'm with Brittany. I mean, I've taken on clients where they send a hard copy bank statement, and I'm looking at their QuickBooks, and this bank statement says check number 500, and in QuickBooks there is no check number 500. Now I don't know what this check is. So now it's a call. What's this check? And then I gotta wait for them to get back to me so I can enter it in their QuickBooks, so I can It's just a much longer process, whereas if they have view access to the bank, they can go in, search for that check number, click on the picture, see what it is, and enter it, and you're done. It takes seconds versus days.
Right. It's a much longer process. It's $65 an hour.
Yes, it's $65 an hour. So,
All right, I'll check with Jody on what we need.
I don't have any problem with it. I just think, they're asking the correct questions.
Right.
It will go quick.
Working back and forth with email.
Yeah.
We've got to get new information.
And I can guarantee you, the closer they get to that $5,000 or $4,000 cap, the less and less and less they're going to work with you. They're going to want to work with you because they're no longer getting paid. So we need to make sure that we do this efficiently and get a good job done.
Okay, so January 23rd.
6:15?
Sure. What time do you guys want? Same time, same great channel?
Works for me.
Okay. All right, so tying into that is the Department of Administration recently issued a decision on the claim against the town for our audit findings, primarily on bank reconciliation and then our over expenditures. So just to make sure that we're absolutely correct in that, you're right. I think a budget amendment so that it's clear that that money is basically being, even if it's still in the same area, it's not.
It's a line item, yeah. There's no question that we're trying to correct some of the issues.
So with those, we'll do.
So I can write that resolution tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm going to send it out to add it to the agenda.
And I'll shoot it out to everybody, and Mitch, if you keep an eye out for it.
Yep.
I'll take a look.
Okay. Lost my train of thought. Resolution. Yes, makes sense. So that the expenditures are not exceeded. I don't think that, like I pointed out right off the get-go, when we do the expenditures and revenues forms, and I'm trying to make sure that they're in your packet now for claims every month, the asterisk denoting an overture. So now that we're all on the same page for that, we have that many more sets of eyes on it. What else? Basically, Jody and Jody getting their cash reconciliation caught back up. That was my take home from Ernie when he was here, our auditor last year, was Ginger has been exceptional at this for years. There's been changes. You need to identify what the changes are and retrain and figure it out. Whether it's a workspace change, we tried changing hours, but it wasn't until we were actually sitting down and talking with Jody and Jody that I'm like piecing things together. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's more grant administration, more paperwork there. It's just multiples adding up. So now we have to be able to mitigate what we can. And I think retraining Ginger to do cash reconciliation in a more efficient way, and then having Brenna be trained as well so you have an extra person is to our benefit. And that's why we started it when we had our findings in July. It's when we started talking with Jody and Jody anyway. So we had been talking with Trevor back in July too. July 2nd, I think, was my first phone conversation with Trevor at the Department of Administration. So had this complaint not been filed, we were still following these same actions. It just sped up the timeline to meet their timeline requirements.
And you guys have been in contact, it said in the complaint that someone was gonna call and.
On January 6th, they called at 3:49 when we were on the phone with Jody, and then we spoke with Trevor the next day because we missed a phone call because we were on the line with Jody. So yes, and then he's been emailing. It's been every day, I think, since the 6th we've received. Well,
He doesn't email every day, but we usually have at least a short conversation every day.
Send the current expenditures and revenues.
One thing, as we're dealing with the audit coming up, I will say, is, he has sent me a form because the audit possibly could not make the deadline again this year. I don't believe our audit this year is going to be federal, because I don't believe we have spent $750,000 in federal funds. So we'll likely have a June 30 deadline for the audit. And I think we can make that, but if it was a federal audit, it's March 31 that they're due.
If we get them under contract next week, they might be able to make it.
Yeah. He sent me the form to fill out, for the town to fill out for an extension on the audit. He said if there is a chance you're not going to make it,
Just fill it out now.
apply
Yes.
for this extension.
I think you should do that.
So that was already in the
How
plan
long
as
does it
well.
typically take for the auditors to complete an audit?
They're here.
They're here for 3 days, and then there's pre-work, I guess, the last time that they were here.
It's usually a couple weeks after they leave here.
That we see it.
Okay.
A final.
A final,
Couple
okay.
weeks, yeah.
So they're here for a week with the
2 or 3
pre-work
days.
and being here, and then a couple weeks, so almost a month. That's
Yeah.
typical.
I send them stuff prior.
Mhm.
We set
Pre-work,
up a share
yeah.
file, and I just shoot everything to them that they ask for through the share file.
Yep.
And then they come do their, like, usually 2 days.
They do their testing for 2 days, yep. Okay.
I have a question. On one of the pages that was in the packet, it said that compliance must be determined to have been met by February 15th, 2025.
Correct.
Will Danielle come see if you're compliant, or like who determines if you're compliant, and then what happens if they determine the town isn't compliant?
That I don't know, but it's the guy that I've been talking to that was assigned to us, Trevor. So anytime him and I talk, I mean, he's taking notes and he's passing those on to Danielle. I mean, so they're, or.
So we
on a
don't.
weekly basis, or, but I am scheduled to talk to him again tomorrow. I'll ask him.
Yeah, that seems like if it's not
Worst
met,
case
then what's going to
scenario is
happen?
what I'd
Like,
like to
yeah,
see.
what would happen? What would happen next? What would they do? Do they give another deadline? Do they?
I don't know. Yeah, good question, Carla. I'll ask.
Because that seems like we're right around the corner.
It is.
I thought it was in the letter. I thought that was in the letter.
The consequence, if not,
Yes, yeah, I thought there was.
is it that letter or the other one? I know there's two.
Yeah, I think it's the other one I read last week.
I think I put them both in there.
Yeah, they're both
Are
in
they
there.
both in there?
I tried to put
I
everything
think
that I
they
had
are.
that was like in a document form.
So is it?
Putting
is
like
the one
emails
dated
in here is
December
not
16th, is that the one that shows the consequences?
Or January 3rd.
January 3rd, maybe?
Failure to resolve significant findings or implement corrective measures must result in withholding of financial assistance in accordance with the rules adopted by the Department of Administration. So we would lose state funding
Yeah, grants and bonds.
and grants and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew it was in there.
So just by just showing that you are working on the problem. And I'm sure it's based on Trevor and Danielle's opinion on whether we are working towards a resolution. So as long as we are showing that we're doing this training, we are trying to get things rectified, it goes in our favor. I won't say what they're gonna say, but I think if we demonstrate that we are genuinely trying to correct these issues, so that's why we need to.
The conversations so far, that is the feeling I get from them, or that he's like, that it's, that yes,
That's why it's
if they
important
see
we-
we're making a concerted effort.
Right. We need to go ahead
Nikki, and apply for the extension on the audit,
Okay.
whether we think we're gonna make it or not.
Just apply for it.
Yeah.
Just fill it out and be there.
Okay, so resolution.
And that's typically what I do with tax returns, even if I have their stuff, I'm just like, no, we're gonna file the extension, because I don't know what I'm gonna file.
Then you don't have to stress about it
Right.
as much. Okay, and the resolution. Okay.
It also gives us a little bit of breathing room to fully discuss the contracts that we might see.
Okay. All right, commission reports. You start off.
So I guess one item that I am going to do, or I've talked with Ginger and Susie and the mayor about this, is file a formal complaint on John Heckler's structure over here. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm a drywall contractor. I was asked to come in and look at the basement in there and do an estimate. And it's a project that we approved, I guess, I don't know how long ago, but it was inspected by Susie and Eric. To see if it was compliant in being a single family
That's this
residence.
Right
This building right across from town hall. And the contractor told me that, no, this is going to be for 3 separate families. It's what it is. So that's not what we approved. That's not what was discussed. And that needs to be addressed. It's ridiculous that he was a former county commissioner. It's ridiculous that he's basically just throwing our own code in our face right now.
He was granted a variance.
Hey,
It was approved through the.
Corey.
Yeah.
So when we went over there, the definition of, laws and this and that, the definition of, multiple families living in there with 2 kitchens. And that was the biggest thing there, is there was 1 kitchen in that house. I'm not sticking up for him at all, because we all know
Sure.
what's going on, but I think that's why it was kind of held to that way.
Okay. And they're building out the basement right now, and it absolutely has a kitchen going.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
So,
Well, that's your report, so let's see where that leads next.
What else? I'm on the IT committee, so I've had fun observing Commissioner Nehan educate the guys from DIS on how you properly assess how many. I guess you kind of led the meeting, is what I would say. So I was stoked to be a part of that, and I appreciate you for your expertise. And yeah, I think, like I said, about every department within the town, I think we do need to do for the growth policy, if nothing else. This is a great opportunity to make things better. So, just one other item I would ask. I think at some point we do need to address our Facebook policy. We need to borrow from another town and make sure we have our ducks in a row regarding that. Yeah, other than that, I don't have. What's that?
I was going to ask, are you talking about a social media policy?
Social media policy.
Social media policy related to employees and elected officials
Sure.
of the town? Okay.
Yeah.
Both.
And that
And
really
that's in
falls
most
under the IT
handbooks these
umbrella.
days. Yeah.
What's that?
It falls under our IT umbrella.
Yeah.
That we're talking about. So
Okay.
that actually engages in that whole conversation.
Cool. Yeah.
So
I
we'll
think
put
we-
that as a talking point at our committee meeting. And maybe-
We
That'd
did
be great.
have a talking point when we had our first meeting about it, about the social media and the regulations, the policies, the security, all of the variables that need to be accounted for the community.
What else you got?
No, I feel like we've talked about pretty much everything else. I guess I'll bring up VRBOs in Virginia City. They've put a cap on them. Mayor Gatewood over in Virginia City claims that even Twin Bridges had this same thing done. I just talked to him today. So he had this. They did the same thing, but theirs was a cap at 2%. But realistically, it's actually more like a 10% cap. I think is what they were.
So, okay, so they're capping, so how are they determining it based on the number of houses in the limits, town limits? Or, I mean, my concern with VRBOs and Airbnbs is having a full street of them. All 10% are on one street. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think if you're thinking about presenting something that we have to look at options of how to limit.
That's
For
a work
neighborhood.
session very
Yeah.
specifically, and honestly, with the growth policy, that's your window to look at zoning and say, where's the ideal spot for it?
Right.
Yeah, that does need to
Or
be
multiple
addressed.
spots
All
or
of that
whatever.
needs to be looked at.
I will stand by the fact that I think that they will be challenged, that both of those ordinances are going to be challenged at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I don't know any other,
They've already been challenged in other municipalities in the state.
yeah,
that
and
have
it's not. gonna-
enacted similar. So,
When you do it as a business capping, it's
Yeah.
not an appropriate.
well, business capping and property rights. and
Property
it
rights.
It's
brings
not
whole-
a good combination. The only way to approach it is through like some kind of zoning reform.
Sure, and it's identifying. It's like I just claim to have identified a violation right across from town hall. So, however we identify, then that was my other question to him. I was like, wait, how did you identify all your VRBOs? And he gave me this weird look. He's like, it's Virginia City. It's not that many people. But I mean, as of now, I think we only have like 8 registered with the town for.
We have 8
business licenses.
registered, but there's 3 or 4 on our block that,
How do you find the ones that are?
yeah.
How do you regulate it?
You have to go through everything. I did it, and if there were a huge percentage, it was shocking. And how do you regulate it? Because we talked about capping it, and it wasn't legal at the time, but if it's legal,
Regulating.
you did it, then do it.
And what constitutes a VRBO or Airbnb? Because you can rent out your house for 2 weeks out of every year and it does not constitute a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Yeah, if tax-wise, you don't have to record, you don't have to record any income. So, yeah, you get 14 days every year. You can rent your whole house out for millions of dollars if you want, and it's zero taxed.
Okay, that's a work session night, and I really do think the growth policy, as soon as it comes together, is, I mean, we can start looking at different ideas
Yeah.
But I know like Bozeman went through years to do their zoning and they've struggled with the implementation of it.
Well, I think they're asking about the enforcement portion of
That's
it. That's the
exactly,
hardest
I
part.
mean,
Yeah.
I think Bozeman's had a whole department kind of devoted to it and inspections and.
That if we're
Adds to your budget.
if we're getting another police officer on, we're going to have to look at changing job descriptions, basically, for maybe zoning enforcement regarding the RBOs or, whatever. So.
Illegal search.
Is there any legislative changes coming down about the?
It'd have to be
I'm sure there is. I mean,
they're stacked right now.
I'm tracking 400 bills here that just relate to tourism and outfitting and literally, I mean, you can come look at this, like 15 pages of just bills that are there that I'm tracking.
It's how much, what did I hear? It's triple?
4,000 in the queue right now. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, you said at the last meeting there was 4,000.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that.
That's what Forrest was referencing, all the fun. So, the league's, I'm sure, watching for some of those. They were heavy last time in any of the zoning. Currently, the hot ones are.
The one I'm worried about is SB. Here it is. SB 90. It redistributes the bed tax. So the bed tax, everybody pays 8% and it goes and it does two different things. It pays for ITRR, which does all those great statistics that I brought you. Remember, it also pays for the people who go out and market Montana. We have buses driving around Central Park with Come to Montana on it. And those are important. But what this does is it redistributes that money from the bed tax to property tax relief, which is the hot button issue here in Montana right now. And everybody's property tax relief. So let's take the bed tax money and move it there. And we get no ITRR and we get no Visit Montana on buses in Central Park anymore. So that's SB 90. It's in front of committee tomorrow if you guys want to.
You have to pre-register. That's the other change in legislation. If you would like to testify, you actually have to pre-register for the first time. So if there's any need, whatever, let me know. I can send you the link. Well, they're all on the state links that say you must register for public hearings ahead of time.
Yeah, so that's the one that really scares me.
And even the change from a mill value to
dollars.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that becomes interesting.
There's a lot of pushback on that. There's a lot. I've heard it.
What you got?
I attended the library board meeting. I entertained emails from Corey regarding the resort tax, sent him my contact info. That's about it since the holidays.
On the 5th through the 8th of January, I was in Washington. I'm a member of the National Academy of the Sciences. And that was started by Abraham Lincoln back in 1863. And it has to do with transportation. So it's a quasi-government agency. And I was invited to become a member of what is called TRB APO 55. And that's for rural transportation and 5311 grant opportunities that come from it. But something that I've been working on for years is that people that have medical conditions that live in rural areas, that they don't have the ability for going to get chemotherapy or for dialysis and many other types of day surgeries and other things. So just working with a number of consultants and people from universities to try to find some way to use 5311 money to possibly bring the medical care here or to people's homes. So I don't know if you know, but dialysis, as an example, can be done in a person's home. So basically, it would be outfitting a vehicle that would be brought to the houses, and people wouldn't need to travel out of town anymore. So providing different opportunities for rural communities to be able to have access to other things that can actually be brought to them, rather than them needing to get into a vehicle and go out of town to actually be able to resource them. So I will be sitting on that committee for the next 3 years, attending meetings in Washington, and hopefully being able to iron out some of these problems, especially for medical care for people within the community and in the valley itself. And the only other thing that I have is that I know that we've been talking about maybe putting a little more meat and teeth into the code, and particularly as it relates to some of the things that are important that can come back and hurt us in the future. People building towers in the middle of town, just as an example. So making sure that we have the ability to make sure that we don't find ourselves fighting something, and that we're proactively having it within our code so that we can make sure that we're protecting the historic nature of our community.
Sounds like we need like a work session for to create our hot list, basically.
Yeah.
The previous attorney had brought, after going to training, the towers and a presentation that was given there. So that's one. The previous commission spent a ton of time on a draft on new zoning code, and it's sitting unadopted on a ledge. It got almost there, and then it met some resistance. And I mean, it was, I can't remember how much that piece of paperwork cost, but I'm sure.
I'm just recommending that we possibly have a working session and include everyone who obviously works in the town, the public, if they're interested in participating, and especially the commission, the planning board, and others who can really help to put the teeth in and know the problems that possibly could come our way, whether it be security, whether it be a tower in the middle of town, or whatever, that we find the time to put together a working session. I think would be great for the town. Thank you.
I've been driving back and forth to Helena a bunch and back up there again tomorrow. Then now Monday and Wednesday of next week. It's good fun. You guys should try it. One thing I want to see on the agenda moving forward, I remember when we did the budget and we talked about employee health insurance, and Ginger said it was a March thing.
I got a flyer yesterday, so that was on the.
And so could we put that on the February agenda, or?
Is anybody opposed to me sending that letter and at least have a start discussion for next week?
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Okay.
When is the open enrollment period? February? No.
So you have to opt out if you are not using MMIA by March 1st, is what the letter's basically stating. And then they will reevaluate their payment or the actuary.
Oh, yeah.
Based on who's still in the pool and this, that, and the other.
So your premiums are age-based? You don't have a...
I believe, Mitch, they're gonna get preliminary rough figures out. I think it said in February, didn't it, Vicki? I need to read it again.
Yeah.
Anyway, John.
I just got it and I was like,
Okay, I just set a reminder to make sure it was on our February agenda.
So it'll be on next week's agenda.
Okay.
So do they offer a premium calculation option? Because there's an age-based calculation and there's what they call a composite. where everybody is charged the same.
They
I don't know if they offer
actually
that.
send out a menu, they call it the menu.
Oh.
So, but that is going to be different levels of healthcare, like you got your Cadillac, you got Chevy.
Yeah, your different level, your plans, your,
Um,
what do they call them?
Yeah. but
Blue
I
Cross
mean,
calls them their metallic plans.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a decision for the whole, right? Like not each employee gets to pick what.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
right now.
my company has 2 plans. So you can pick between the two. One of them's 100% covered by the company, and one of them you pay the difference.
What were you gonna say,
I think it was sitting as a menu right now, that if we had a young person come in that wanted to do the HTCP, you know, and have really low, they could do that. But of course, you know, I mean, if you've got the choice, you're gonna take the Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's all things that you guys, that's gonna come with this information from MMIA for you to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
If you're
sure
not,
we didn't-
if you're good with that,
we
I'm
didn't
putting it
miss
on
it
for
and
next.
get the
No.
budget again.
And it's on the, and it
It's
should
on the
be,
first notice of it starting.
and it should be on your Google Calendar.
Oh, is it? I just set a reminder.
It is.
in my own.
Okay.
It is, I saw it the other day.
Okay. Like I put it on the calendar so that we're all on the same page. Did the IT meeting show up? I tried to do it from my
The
phone.
meeting didn't show up.
I don't see it. No.
I did it from my phone, so I wonder if I got something going on. There. Okay. So must do from.
I have it. It's Monday, 10 o'clock. But
I know,
for
but I
some
told you I'd
reason-
put it on the calendar.
for
All right,
some
I'm
reason
sending you the MMIA stuff.
Yeah, they're not migrating over to the calendar. At least everything's not.
Okay. So I may have to sit with IT and learn what I did wrong. I'm not real techy. You caught that during the meeting. John, what else you got?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you for all your state house work. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Miles that you're putting in.
Are you going to wear a tie for us?
I will.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to put on my costume.
Congratulations.
What else you're testifying?
What's that?
What are you testifying?
On the coal endowment grant thing. That's, yeah,
Thank you.
11, HB 11,
HB 11.
HB 11.
and
Yeah.
then HB 6.
6 is the other one.
Yeah.
It's on the 23rd.
Yep.
Yep.
Commissioner Sully.
Well, I've been getting familiar with the Ennis and Madison County laws and codes. I've actually was not familiar with the league, so I've been reading and going down that bunny hole and figuring out that stuff. I have actually been working a little bit on the short-term rentals and just getting familiar a little bit more with that in the area as far as, how do we find who these people are? How do you find them, where their property is at? Are they registered? Are they registered with the state as well as in the city? Are they paying their dues and all those kind of things? I looked into that because I wanted to make sure every I needed and every T was crossed on my property. So I've been checking into that. Then I have signed up for the local government center online course. So I signed up and paid for that. And yeah, I don't know if anybody else is going to be. You did? Doing that.
We will reimburse.
Oh, well, I need the information. So
Mine said
yeah.
that you guys would pay it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't ask me for money.
Are you signed up?
Yeah, I signed up yesterday.
How's the deadline? I'm just trying to figure out how many.
I'll sign up.
Yeah, I think
I have
tomorrow was
signed
the
up. I
last
signed up
day, I
yesterday.
believe the 17th or something like that. And then they sent me an agenda with like each week, because I thought it might have been do at your own pace. And I guess it's a certain amount of it is, but you do a certain amount.
You have a
one
deadline
week,
Tuesday nights.
Yeah, and then you've got,
By
I guess,
midnight.
other people that are taking the same course with you, and you respond to their comments and you make comments, so at least you're participating. So anyway, so that's fixing to be starting, and then I went around and introduced myself to a few people, business owners and, some local citizens, and just, saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you like? What do you don't like? Just those kind of questions. And that's been pretty much what I've been doing.
I don't have my regular anything typed. My Monday was not here like it was supposed to be. So it's back to what notes that my checklist of did you accomplish the things on your checklist? I don't even remember last week. So yeah, the IT meeting with DIS, the TND for Josie's.
Yes.
That is complete.
Yes.
Then it was to let the ambulance know that they were part of our no-no list with the Department of Labor, so that they could create policy and basically become compliant. There's no running the ambulances in the bays while you're doing inspections. You must take them outside because my office is out there and John's office is right there. So Bernie's got that back to me, and I have to finish up with that, and then we'll have our release letter like Karen's got. Some minor things with tenant upstairs. Agenda. I didn't register for my class. When I looked in our budget, we are over in registration and membership in my area, in financial or in administration. In administration. And also in land use. So I'm going to pull those. Corey graciously helped me because I heard rumor that once upon a time, one of the previous council members gave a financial report monthly. And I was like, cool. So I went digging through our books. What? Quarterly. Well, somebody said monthly, so I dug through every month that Brian Vincent was on council trying to find one of these said reports. When really I should have just called Corey because he called Brian and Brian gave me templates. So now I think I'm there. So I'm probably going to have to ask for Mitch's help on that, but that was my initial findings is I underestimated memberships and dues. So I don't have enough money to go to my executive, so I might just go on my own, whatever. For the executive session in February. Because that's usually when the league kind of picks the hot ones, anything that we really want to oppose. And we kind of all go as mayors together up to the Capitol and do our...
How much does it cost?
I haven't looked for registration. I noticed that we were over and I didn't look. No, with me, whatever.
Well, you probably need to go, don't you?
It's not a big deal. Like, I have family over there, so I'm just going to go crash.
The thing is you can go over in a line item, you just don't want to go over in the account.
So I'll look at that now, but
that is something that then you
In
pay
that
attention to
particular
the
fund.
next budget session and say, okay, we didn't budget enough here. Let's look at the printout of what we paid and increase the
reallocate.
budget.
Yeah. The league's fees went up and I didn't calculate that into that one. So that's where I found that one. And then I usually only attend one conference typically because I have not done both in a year. I've only picked one or the other.
That's why the budget
it was
is,
when West Yellowstone, so I was like,
a governmental budget is supposed to be a working document where you're doing what you're doing now, what you're basically, you're looking at your expenses versus what you have budgeted. And you can move, like Ginger said, you can move money around in that fund, that's what they call it. You can move money around within that fund as long as you don't go over what that fund has been allocated.
So
I would
I
think
should,
of it like
I'll
a
have that
bucket
there.
and then
It's
little
a
boxes.
bucket. Yep.
Bucket and little boxes in the
boxes,
bucket.
yep.
Yeah.
Anything, the other outliers that stood out to me, but basically those two were the it's overage. Everything else is kind of, well, first thing I look at is basically all the employees and their compensations, and we should be about 50% or 53% or wherever.
Mhm.
And those are all on track to be where they're at. Revenues are down in court and a couple of other ones. So I'll pull those specifically. And then our short-term investment was already at 78% of what's in that, in this file.
This debt,
Yeah.
yeah, revenue.
But that can always change from, because it's quarterly. But as of right now, it's already at 78% of what we projected. But again, court's down and some of the other revenues are down. And we don't have marijuana tax in yet. Maybe.
Yeah, it's in there.
Or it's part of it. So anyway, I'm hoping with my new template, I might even have it next week because that'll finish up with the claims. I can pull the full report. So maybe that'll be my
Explain to me
Monday
what you just
project.
said about the marijuana tax, if you don't mind.
In our projected revenues, we take a stab at it. Our county voted. How does that go?
They give us a certain amount.
Was it 3%?
Or what they collect.
Yes, it is 3%. I believe it was.
Of
I
just
think-
what's within your municipality. So they
Okay.
could give that to us.
And who gives it to you? Is
The
what
county
yours-
allocates it to us.
Okay,
And that's, I believe, on a quarterly basis.
okay, and that's,
That's what.
yeah.
It doesn't come with the monthly payments.
So
I
you
believe
don't
it's back
know
on the
what's
quarter.
going on until you get that quarterly report, so you don't know how much you're getting from
And
them.
they, yeah, and even they just send the check and on their report, whatever we get, we would have to call the county to see what.
The actual revenue was, yeah.
Okay.
What their revenue was.
Well, if they're giving you 3%, you can divide by 3.
Yeah.
Is 3 the max?
Yes, that's what was voted, I believe. It's a voted amount. That's the highlights. So I'll have, well, and Eric didn't mention it in his, but he's been working on the last contract. He finally made contact with, that's Department of Commerce as well. Because we sent everything in for it the same time as 819. And Mr. Guzza still hasn't seen the contract yet, but they expect that to be in the next 2 weeks. And that was at the beginning of last week, or beginning of this week.
Can I ask, I know the Government Review Board sent their policies and procedures last time for us to send over to Ed to look at. Was that?
No.
Has he had a chance to reply on it?
And how are we doing all of that?
Hmm?
So when we use
our legal team, that would be part of their budget.
That would be part of their budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect him to spend more than half an hour on it, if that. Yeah.
So, I mean, the way we see it is just a quick measure of crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
Yeah.
To say that, it's been reviewed.
Actually, really, all we need is to read it.
Okay, I'll send it to Ed. And then he itemizes everything anyway. So last time
Does
I
he
had him do
bill-
meeting law research, it was
Is he
$500.
minimum? 10th of an hour? Is that, or 15 minutes? Is that?
15
Right.
minutes.
Every 15 minutes.
By the word.
They typically.
You know, it was
So
a
you-
recommendation, I think, that MSU, Dan,
Okay.
and Ashley are just like, okay, here's a template, but to remove our liability, have your lawyer. So I'm sure we can try to upload it to this lawyer.com website and have it reviewed and then go take some more. I'm sure there's an option for that too if it's going to be outrageous. But I don't
Well,
think
just
it will
ask
take
him
that
not to
long
spend more than
read.
15 minutes on it if he bills for every 15 minutes.
You get what you pay for.
Well, all we need
I'm
him
not
to do is,
worried about it.
I'm not
think
worried
any
about it
other-
either.
I don't think any other town is worried about it. I know there's several towns and counties that have used.
Is yours a direct template off of theirs?
What's that?
Is yours a direct template from,
Yeah,
directly
we
off of
plugged
that?
in Town of Ennis and plugged in any, I honestly think that was changed, was just, the template straight from MSU. So.
Ed, can you spend 15 minutes on this? Okay.
15 minutes or less.
Okay. So my Monday that's on the calendar as off, I will not be off. And then, so we have IT Monday. I think that's the only other one. And I will be out of town
What time?
Tuesday,
is that?
Wednesday, 10. Unscheduled matters.
I just have a couple of questions and things that I failed to bring up at the correct time. So I was wondering, actually, I guess my first question would be, can you add something to the agenda that is old business? Because the things that around budget that we have passed, like asking for year-to-date expenditures to compare the claims to, whatever happened with Ennis and Associates. I noticed there was something in claims to pay them again. The budget was passed with the compensated absence overage. Can you add something like that so that is brought up and brought to mind again, so it's not just completely forgotten about?
I guess, yes. Ennis and Associates, it's perfectly okay for citizens to ask questions on claims as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you certainly could have asked. So that's the annual financial report. It's not the audit. We've had them do it before, and it was budgeted for.
I don't think that's, I'm sorry, I don't think that's what I was talking about.
And then, is that not what you were talking about for old business?
Well, just old business to have a tab to bring things back up that don't always get addressed. Not stuff that was tabled, but things that were addressed, but then kind of forgotten about, like during budget.
I think that's a good work session listing.
Yeah.
You can actually show her an example.
Okay. I think that would be a good idea. Just like when John had
Like
said
a
earlier,
regroup
that
and
he
then
set a
go from
reminder
there.
for the health insurance stuff. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
she's
that-
just saying things that we discuss and we don't actually do anything during a meeting.
Yeah, just to
Should it be
bring
on the next
back to mind.
agenda as unfinished business?
Yeah.
Are they unfinished business?
Yes.
That's what they are.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's what it should. I think that would be helpful.
So we would have to identify those at the end of each meeting.
I think like a good work session to start and pull them all together and then do it that way. Does that make sense?
Okay. And then I don't think with the claims, and maybe this is what like citizens aren't allowed to see, but like a year-to-date expenditure, so you know where you're at when you're signing off on claims. I know when I was on the library board, we had seen a couple of those. I don't know, like I said, I
There's
don't know if
an
it's.
expenditures report in
I
this,
think there
this
is,
month's
yeah.
packet.
Oh, is there?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And it shows current and year to date
And where you're at with it. Okay.
Yep.
That was.
compared to budget. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been trying to make sure to include it in all of them.
Yeah, just don't try to open it in one of these tablets. It just squishes everything. You can't read it.
Yeah. And then I guess my other question was
It
the
does.
I can't remember his name, but the prosecutor I didn't see him on claims, but that's probably just because there was nothing that got pushed to that level. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Bovee.
And then I guess I have a question. I'm sorry, really sorry to do this all at the last minute, but with your report, it said like ARPA funds. That's COVID money, right? Or like COVID relief. So is there a deadline to spend that by?
It's got to be
December of this year.
allocated.
Of 2025.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, and we've gone through our initial contract with Great West for the start of the major site plan.
For the, okay,
And that's the designation for that money,
okay.
to start those. To make sure that we don't lose it in the,
I do need to say, sorry, when she brought up claims, there are some late claims coming in, so I'll present those next week as well. If you're good with that?
look, we could have all the fun again. It is in there, right? I can't
It
even
is,
find
yeah.
it.
I was looking. The revenue's in there too.
Okay. I'm trying to be really good because that was one that Hankins wanted every time. And that I agreed that should be in there every time so you could see where we're at. And then that keeps us doing a better eye on
the budget
overages.
Yes.
Okay. If you don't see it there, immediately holler at me. Okay. Anything else? We'll schedule our work session next week only. And we'll know where we're at. Sound good?
Yes. Oh, move to adjourn.
I second.
Okay. Oh, such a long list.
What's that?
I have to be on the road by 2:30, so.
You need the post-it
home and go to
note,
bed.
the giant
Get a few
post-it note.
hours of rest anyway.
You know when
Pretty much.
when we did our
I gotta be in hell at 8.
our prioritization thing, and
How's the road been?
They've been good.
everybody came at 6. And
What's
we had
that?
a big post-it note, and then we wrote down ideas.
Yeah.
I have to leave by 6 to get there by 8.
I do need something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
safe travels.
Yeah.
It's bouncing all over.
No, it is. That's because there's like it's like being an American. There's like we can do whatever we want to.
Thank you, Karen. I just got your email. I just
No,
caught
if you have to
something
go to Ellen with me.
with insurance.
Two
Is
bills hit the
I
other
think
house.
we're on it.
okay.
I think we're on it.
I was like,
Thank you.
missed that today, and I'm like, whoa, that's.
They've got something going on tomorrow in Helena that my
And then I'll
son
run
sent me. I'm not going to it, but it's something to do with the cannabis industry tomorrow, that they're having a luncheon or a dinner or something, and something going on there. I don't know what it is. I hadn't had time to look at it, to be honest. There's a whole new thing for me. Anyways.
Yeah, I doubt it. I just want to like the education thing is going to be like literally walking around the beach. We're gonna talk to everybody.
But I'm like, bring back tulips. Apparently that is the one thing that you don't ask.
Thank you, Ginger. Yeah. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We should. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Because
There you go.
Oh, you know, yeah, keep rolls in it. It says you're. Yeah.
We're gonna need roads. Roads are gonna have to pick up.
The infrastructure at first adds very quickly, takes down paving, cleaning roads. Like, don't do it. Like, you're gonna.
I have a cabin out in Virginia Ranches, and it's 2.25 miles in on 2 miles.
There's a big difference.
2 million. And the HOA out there, they're trying to revive, the HOA is, they're trying to revive.
What's that?
And they wanted to increase it. We're at lot.
It is.
We need to go. $5 million first. I don't remind me. Back out there again, pay for all that.
Remobilization.
Yeah.
Cost.
Yes. It is. So.
I know.
She has, we're still in Tech. We're still in Tech.
All right, I'm leaving. I have to be on the road by 2:30. In the morning?
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Drive safe. Drink plenty of coffee for the screaming eagle. Safe journey. See you guys. Thanks. Good night.
You know, I have a question.
Are you saying what's my opinion on it? That's the only way we're gonna.
I think Army tried this week, so we're barely sitting up on our layout.
Anything that says tax on it, I want to run far away from it. But.
Here's a small one. I'm serious, like, I really wanna test it.
I mean,
No, the town, the town.
Oh, Riverside.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'll get it, yeah.
You have to pick those two.
I agree with you.
right, I won't be on it. Really? Yeah, I'll probably be looking for it. We should give it a couple months. Yeah. Give it a little time. Did they ever answer on the signature card? And you're, like, I never thought we're gonna get 3 signatures. I think that the entire time